Alright there! Before you get started on this episode of Zapped to the Past, we would just like to give a massive shout out to the following people: Andy Marsh, Cole Hutchinson, David Hearn, Sven Osa, 2000 DC, Gary Heather, Roger McNally, Lee Dove, Ben Granville, Mark Fletcher, Etienne Vettingfeld, Niall Bullitt, Alexander Gosling, Tim TJ Walker, Phil Sowerby, Joshua K, Dominic Kendrick, Rune P, Nick James, Daniel Spreadbury, Peter Price, Richard Davey, Dennis B, AL82 Retro, Liam Carew, Dylan DeArch, Alistair McMillan, Mark Schutz, Dan Wales, Gary Wilson, Oscar Jacobson, Brian Howarth, Rob Clayton, Clyde Radcliffe, Juan Luis Sanchez, Adam Askew, Leo Staples, Jason Hutchins, Jan Halholm, David Stringer, Chris Snowden, David Winter, and Mike's Retro Tech. These amazing people have backed our Patreon at the C64 tier, and the support they offer, well, it's just awesome. If you want to join them, get a mention in next month's shout out, access to our Discord server, early access to ad-free episodes, along with anything special releases we put out, and anything else we can think of, like stuff that's going to be heard in this episode, then sign up by the 18th of the month at patreon.com/Zapped to the Past for probably less than the price of a pint of beer. And now, on with episode 150.
Welcome to episode 150, the Battle of the Eggs. Starring Adrian Mills as Talcador, the Winged Warrior. Graham Reddings as Uvalon, his trusted innkeeper friend. And introducing Creamy de Jour as the wily witch Decentra Fox. Watch as they fight the evil battle hordes of the Egg Queen as they try and destroy the kingdom of Zapped to the Past. Who will win? Only you can decide.
Hello and welcome to episode 150 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Reddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We're using the magazine Zapped 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zapped 64 itself. This week, we start our look at May 1990 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 61 of Zapped 64, along with what was also going on in the UK singles and albums chart that month. Graham, may the force be with us, or are we in danger of serious chokeholds?
It's the year 1990 and it's the merry, merry month of May, the same month where Tom Cruise picked up a ticket for careless operation of a vehicle in South Carolina. Tom Cruise, for goodness sake. Hey, anyway, we slip into our shiny, polished white battle suit and sprint and jump around some massive maps, shooting the crap out of everything in the impressive Turrican. We attempt to manage some kind of football experience thing through a series of slow text-based options and tables in the dreary British Super League, and as if that wasn't quite enough football, we explore the lonely world of the goalkeeper as we gaze pointlessly from one end of the pitch to the other for 90-second bursts without seeing a single player or a ball in the emotionless rubbish drivel Striker. A lot of things happened in May 1990, of course it did. The Hubble Space Telescope sent its first photographs back from space, which then prompted the question, why are they so blurry? Anyway, while we breathe on the lens and rub it with the corner of our shirts, we become an egg, only an egg with arms and legs and a face. So essentially we become a sentient bipedal egg and scoot around some mazes looking to eat pizza and such. In fast food, we grab our rackets and balls, slip on our terry-toweling wrists and headbands and adopt our best Sergio Tacchini poses in Pro Tennis Tour, get our disk drive ready for massive amounts of flippage and our helmets and pads on for a good old-fashioned bit of gridiron hand egg in TV Sports Football, before joining forces with our favourite female gymnast hologram and heading into the well-drawn but annoying corridors and platforms of yet another base that needs infiltrating, this time as the DIY-friendly Hammerfist. If 150 episodes of this podcast has taught me anything, is that you need to take the rough with the smooth. Yes, there are some cracking games in there this week, but of course there are also the obligatory dog eggs. It wouldn't be the Zapped to the Past podcast without them, would it? Could be chokeholds, couldn't it?
It could be either, who knows?
Are we in business, or is our Death Star going to get shot in its exhaust pipe?
Oh, absolutely.
Right in the pipe.
Have I been shooting those things out on the planes, whatever he says? They're not much bigger than it, or whatever.
Yeah, what's he say? Gun darks, are they?
I don't know.
My Star Wars knowledge is fleeting. Fleeting nowadays.
But this is a very special episode, Graham. It's very special. The main thing, it occurred to me as we finished last week, as we finished April 1990.
Yes.
That is 5 years of magazines we've done.
5 years of Zap.
5 years of Zap. Cool,
That's
huh?
quite crazy.
But it also coincided that episode 150. It's just a massive coincidence.
There's too many coincidences.
It is. And we also went past 175,000 downloads with this lot.
Again, these numbers,
you see, yeah. If Jeff, what's his face, was in that film, number 23, he'd be scribbling on a wall in biro and sort of joining the dots up with red string at this point.
Tell me about it. I got a phone call from Hurley this morning from Lost. You weren't expecting that.
4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42.
Yeah, it was weird. It was very strange. And I was sat there for at least 10 minutes going, who the hell's Hurley?
And how the hell do I still remember those bloody numbers?
How do you remember those numbers?
I don't know. I watched a lot of Lost.
It's a coincidence. Anyway, Adrian, as a matter of even weirder near coincidence, this episode will come out on, I think, Monday the 27th of May. And Wednesday the 29th of May is the 150th day of 2024.
Wow. It's getting spooky now.
I know, isn't it just? And I've got a few other amazing facts that I want to tickle your bones with as well about 150 things.
I love a good tickle.
Well, and you know what? Because 150 is a bit of a milestone, isn't it? We get an extra badge from Podbean, I think, for that, which is nice.
Maybe,
we collect the badges. It's always nice.
Always nice.
And I thought there'd be some interesting things that you'd like to know. So I did a little bit of research, as you do.
Go on
in. So what do you think was the 150th word spoken in the Zap to the Past podcast? And it took me a while to do this, so...
in episode 1?
Well, yes, in episode 1. What do you think the 150th word was? Spoken by you, by the way.
Was it Zap or
no.
Dog?
No. It would be good if it was, but no. Do you know what it was?
Probably the.
No. It made me laugh when I discovered this, by the way, and it's genuine. Floated.
Yeah, it's good a word as any.
Floated. And do you know what the 150th game we reviewed was?
Oh, 150th game. When did we get to that? Can you do you know the month that was in? Might give me an idea.
I think it was episode 16 or 17. So episode 17. The issue, I wouldn't like to say what that was because we were doing kind of weird doubles back then.
Yeah, I'm going to say Scarabaeus.
Well, you're in the right vicinity, actually. I'll give you credit where credit's due, but completely wrong. But you're in the right vicinity because it was actually... No, although that was in that episode. But it was one of those episodes. But it was Imhotep.
Oh God!
I know. 20%
that gif again.
No, a game that I described as an ultimate don't play the game and utter garbage. So obviously we liked that.
No, we didn't like that. It was rubbish. I seem to remember
crazy. 150 magic. 150. Did you know that, Adrian? The average gestation period for a goat is 150 days. You do now.
I do now, yeah.
That's pub quiz gold. Research has shown that smartphone users check their phones on an average of 150 times a day.
That's less than I thought, actually.
Queen Elizabeth I was said to own 150 wigs. These are all true facts. You can check
wigs.
These out. Yeah, not pubic wigs, I hope.
Not merkins.
Not merkins, no. I'm not sure that was invented then. 150, did you know, Adrian, is a Dunbar number. Do you know what a Dunbar number is?
I'm sure you're going to tell me, but I have no idea.
A Dunbar number, this completely threw me this. A Dunbar number is the number of people with whom humans are capable of maintaining meaningful relationships, whether in hunter-gatherer societies or from their social media circle, according to the evolutionary anthropologist Robert Dunbar. So you can only ever really socialise with a maximum of 150 people or have relationships with them. I'd argue that's way less, but perhaps maybe I'm just
I can manage about
social.
5.
Exactly. And influencers clearly, they spend their... So it just shows that all those influencers that are out there, they only care about 150 people, max. Bloody liars, crazies.
Or they're skewing the average high.
Exactly. But what that does mean, Adrian, is that because we've got an amazing bunch of patrons, but I think we've got about just over 50. So we're still well within our limit of having,
Absolutely.
we care about all of them. We care about them in triplicate because that's just about, we haven't reached our max number of cares, have we? We'd have 300 technically because we'd have 150 each, but.
Yeah, but then be like talking about
the same ones.
I don't care about them. And you're going, I do. No, I can't.
No, exactly.
I'm over my limit.
Exactly. Well, we'll trade. It'd be like Monopoly trading.
Not here.
One that's relevant to you, Adrian, is the total number of power stars in Super Mario 64 for the DS, for the Nintendo DS. That's 150.
Oh, there you go. That's good. Good number.
There you go. Thought I'd just give you that. So that's just the facts. That was it. Then, of course, there's, I've already given you some. That's it. That was at least 9, I think. Probably could have gone to a more logical round number there, but by that point, I was kind of like, I thought we were going to get 150. It's funny you say that.
We could be here for a while.
And then fact, with gravelly voice, fact number 149.
It's been 84 years.
Adrian, he's still there, Adrian. Oh, my God.
Scene in Airplane, we're just talking to a skeleton.
No, I did ask our patrons to give us their top Zap covers, and I don't know if they did or they didn't. I don't know. I think we've got a few nominees in there, so we'll maybe look at those a bit later. But I did scour them and pick mine out. I don't know if you got a chance to do that. I picked my top 3 out.
Okay.
And that was issue 2, which was the Theatre Europe one, which I think we made a point. It's that one with a really gory face.
Yeah, that's good though.
Issue 18, which is the Beyond the Forbidden Forest one, which is kind of like a guy with a bow and arrow being sucked into a kind of giant slug.
Yeah,
it's quite a nice one. And then I like the issue 21, the Gauntlet one with the big axe coming through the front. Those are my 3 favourites.
Yeah.
It's quite hard. It's a difficult choice because there's so many there. My worst ones, by the way, was issue 37. That's the Pac-Land one with the giant, crappy yellow Pac-Man. Yeah. Issue 21 is the Zapped Boys Choir one. I'm not really keen on that one.
No.
And issue 26 is the one that's got, it's too much cover tape, which is ironic considering this episode, but there's too much cover tape on it. It's like there's a ninja in the corner, maybe. It was the one with the Last Ninja cover tape on it, but the cover tape is like taking over that one.
Right, yeah. I didn't have a check, but I think if I just go off the top of my head, what would be my favourite? It would probably be, I think, issue 16, the Green Beret one. I like that one.
Good teeth in that one, good teeth.
Great teeth, good blood splatter, and good
that is a good one.
Good fierce anger. It's a Boy's Own cover.
It is very good, yeah. Boy's Own?
Yeah, not Boy's Own, the band, but a Boy's Own.
I was going to say.
As in like a Boy's Own manual, those books used to get.
I can dig that. I can get behind that.
Probably that one. Although I do like I always like the Paradroid one as well.
Yeah, that's another good one. It's close. There's a lot of them. I'll tell you what, there's a point when you're looking at them and you're like, that's amazing, brilliant. It's not quite as good. And then towards the sort of where we're at now, we're kind of like, they're a bit more hit and miss, way more hit and miss than they were in those first 20 episodes, first 20 issues. Really are quite amazing to covers. So
yeah,
there you go.
There we go. Well, there you go. There's some amazing facts that I'm glad I now know. We're into episode 150. There will be stuff coming up later on where we just, whatever comes to mind. Well, speaking of covers, we need to speak about the new cover. This is May 1990's cover.
We do.
So let me bring it up. So I'm looking at that cover right now.
It's not great. I'll just refer you back to exactly what I said a moment ago.
Do you not like it?
I like the samurai, although I hate to say it, his head's a bit wide, but I like the samurai, such as he is a samurai, because he's not wearing a samurai outfit. And it says ninja spirit, but he's not a ninja. But okay, because he's got a curved sword and looks like a scimitar. But the guy behind him, who's kind of the Aldi Darth Vader there, he doesn't look anything like the character in Turrican.
No, he doesn't.
Well, his armour's white in Turrican.
He's black armoured. Yeah, it's the wrong colour. Maybe he didn't play the game.
That's Darth Vader. We finally found him.
Yeah, it is someone. It's all right. It's a bit like, there's 2 big games and just put the characters and then what's the background? Well, I'll just put a brown blur on it.
Yeah, it's fire. It's the classic. Make it blurry red and orangey fire. It's fire. It's just fire.
Yeah. And then obviously we've got the 2 complete sizzling shoot 'em ups on your mega tape. It's a good mega tape.
It is a good mega tape, that I was going to say.
Mutants and Sanction for free.
That's pretty good going. I mean, Sanction, no, not as much, but good music though. But Mutants is a great little game. So rock hard though.
Yeah,
both crazy hard actually.
Yeah, and you could win a Sony CD Ghetto Blaster from Domark, just up there in the top right. Don't know what it's doing up there.
Just floating around. Do you know when I first read that, I thought it said Denmark. I was like, well, that seems niche. You could win a Danish CD player. Is it different? Yes.
Surely. I don't know. Sony get a blaster from Denmark. Why not? Maybe that's where they imported it from.
Put it over there.
Yeah, it's just floating up there, isn't it? Also, we've lost. It's now back to £1.95. We've lost any international currencies.
Yeah,
just so with cassette,
flirted with it. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Ninja Spirit, Razor Sharp, arcade action, Turrican, best C64 game of 1990? Question, is it? I don't know.
Wouldn't be hard at the moment, would it?
Well, we're only in May, but no, probably
exactly.
not.
We're looking at the Bordeaux Fair. It's not like we've had a
No.
this isn't an a la carte restaurant we've been to here. This is a greasy spoon.
Yeah, so far, yeah. And the bacon's not been very nice.
No. Pre-chewed.
Yeah. That's not pleasant. So it's an okay cover. I mean, the figures are quite good, but it's a wrong one. I'm ignoring you now. The pre-chewed bacon. This bacon, it's got teeth marks in it.
It's Kevin's younger brother.
Yeah.
All right, pre-chew. You're all right. It's adopted.
Who's Kevin?
Kevin Bacon.
Oh, yeah. Pre-chewed bacon. Okay. Yeah, sorry. I need to catch up. Been off a week. I'm not up to speed.
Cousin from Thailand. It's his stepbrother from Thailand. Pre-chew. All right, pre-chew. Hello.
God. I think we need to get in some games.
We probably do.
We probably do. Let's leave these covers behind, or this cover behind, and all this pre-tuned madness, and get into our first game.
Hello.
We've got seven games to get through. Graham.
We have
lots of other stuff.
Oh, so, God help us, we have.
Let us crack on to the quality games we have in store for us.
Was the way this war is like all. Yo. Oh yeah. The Commodore 64, the OG 8-bit hero, Zapped to the past, make way for episode 150, 80 and G, playing through the games we know, also we don't have to, yo.
And that first one, Graham, is over to you. Well, it's one of those cover games. It is Darth Vader. It is Turrican.
It is Turrican, isn't it? Thank God this came along. I'm starting to lose faith at this point. This is published by Rainbow Arts, of course. The producer is Mark A. Ulrich, a coder, of course. The one-man army himself, Mr. Manfred Trenz, who pretty much did everything for this. So he coded it, he did the graphics, and he also did the title screen. That's the guy that was responsible for Catechus and Genesis, if you've temporarily gone mad and forgotten who he is. Musicians, Chris Hulsbeck, of course. He's got a long list of working with Rainbow Arts and music and Genesisters and R-Type and you name it. There's also a chap called Ramiro Vaca. He's done some other interesting stuff. He did something called Garrison, which is a bit of an interesting Gauntlet clone that never made it to the shores of Britain, I don't think, or certainly never got reviewed in Zap.
Anyway.
And I found it quite an interesting little thing, but we'll maybe look at that another time. But he did the music for that. And there's another guy called Stefan Hartwig. No idea what he did. Just got his name. I'm not associated with anything for some reason. He's in a separate column of his own. The box art for this was Kelal Kandimangalulu. I think Kandimiraglu. That's it.
Okay.
Sorry if I got your name wrong. It's very difficult to pronounce that. So this is Turrican then. $9.99. Came out on tape and disc, I believe.
Probably.
And it's a big old game, this. Fancy, really fancy pants stuff. And there is a blurb. I'll go through the blurb. This was apparently inspired by an arcade. The arcade being Psycho Nick's Oscar, which was a 1987 side-scrolling run-and-gun game. Manfred Trenz, he cited this as a direct influence in an interview that he gave and said, that influenced me, that did. It was quite a short interview, turns out.
Manfred Trenz, everyone.
Manfred Trenz. All right, anything else to say? No. I'm sick of talking about Turrican, actually. It's all right, but it's not as good as Turrican 2. I don't know. Jury's out on that. Anyway, so let's look at the prologue for this. A story of times long gone by. Now, before I read this is kind of written in back to front speak a little bit, and I find those things a little bit tongue-twisty.
Ain't that very similar to A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away? We've got Darth Vader, and then we've got... What was that? You just said? How to read it again?
A story of times long gone by.
Yeah, it's very similar.
But all of this is written in this kind of double back speak. So it tells us of the three-headed Morgul, or Mogul, who lives a secluded life in his kingdom. This Mogul is the cause of all the fears and nightmares of mankind. It is furthermore said that in ancient times he was banished to an unknown dimension by the hero Devilon.
Good old Devilon.
Good old Devilon.
He's in Dynasty, isn't he?
I thought it was a cream that you put on sore knees or something.
I thought he's one of the stars of Dynasty.
Thanks for that, Devil on. It's worked a treat.
Devil on thrush.
Ew. Don't ever want to meet Devil on if that's it. Fear and sleepless nights disappeared out of the people's lives. I don't like the way they phrased that, Adrian. It's making me feel a bit awkward.
Read it again.
Fear and sleepless nights disappeared out of the people's lives.
Oh, that's a tense twister, isn't it?
For some time now, here we go again. For some time now, people have again been tormented by nightmares and suffer from a serious state of dread and fear. Hardly anybody dares to set a foot onto the streets at night, and a dreadful fear that Mogul has returned to his kingdom is alive in the people's minds again. As the only man on earth whose courage has not yet deserted him, you are sent off once again to free humankind from its burden of fear. You have been armed with the latest weapons and technical equipment for this mission. A whole gang of gimmicks. Mighty handy item.
Yeah.
Find Mogul in his kingdom and destroy him once and for all. That's it. Sets the tone, really, doesn't it?
Nice and short and sweet.
They did this with Catechist. It had the kind of a little over-blurby story, didn't it? It's all right. It links to it. I guess it links things together. It's not that important, really.
No.
The game, then. In Turrican, you will guide your hero through 5 different worlds in which he will be confronted by various perils. 3 of these worlds extend over 3 levels. The remaining 2 worlds over 2 levels. I'm sure that's an equation. Ever-changing enemies. I know. Essentially, it's 13 levels. I think 13.
It's like a simultaneous equation. Actually, there's only one. When you divide it all down, it's just one level.
Just comes down to 1. Ever-changing enemies will constantly try to destroy you. You will have to use weapons skillfully in order to survive the varied levels. To aid you in battle, you may gather up your further weapons and order extras on your way, e.g. force shields and extra lives. Examine every detail closely. You will find new surprises and useful items everywhere. In other words, make sure you headbang the sky.
Yes.
Headbang the sky. Do it. Okay, so pretty interesting game, this. Considered something of an all-time classic on the C64. This is one of those hushed-toned games when it comes to the C64. And you can sort of see why. This is an absolute tour de force of coding and audio and gameplay. Now, whether you like run and gun shooters or not, very much dictates how much mileage you're going to get out of this. And you could say that about all games. You could. But this one in particular, because it's kind of a landmark game, because it's kind of the best of this type of game on the system, I think. Not that there's been that many, and its competition hasn't exactly been good. Strider, which was a bit crap, wasn't it?
Looking at you, Strider. Oh, don't look at me. I'm rubbish.
He's going to 2-frame animate his way out of this. Anyway, so it is very much a tour de force of coding, and considering this is one guy did pretty much most of that, it really sort of shows. A run and gun shooter. This game is excellently put together from the get-go. There's no question of it. This game is slick C64 stuff. There's a very nice opening image on it. Very impressive speech, I thought. And some great music from Chris Hulsbeck. It's not necessarily the best music because this game starts as it means to go on. And it's obviously, like I said, it's a bit of a classic, but the music in it isn't Turrican 2. And that kind of lived off the Amiga early. This game comes into its own on the Amiga later, but it's in a bad benchmark to set it off. And the music, ironically, for this one is better on the C64 than it is on the Amiga. Weird. Turrican 2, that's a different ballgame. So you've got a nice, like I said, a nice opening image, bit of speech, all good. There's an interesting combo of game engine parts sort of will greet you when you finally get through this, because this game is kind of, it's bits of Gianna Sisters and his Catechist. It's kind of, if you got the 2 game-based code bases of those and pushed them together in a very optimized manner, you get this. You get this game.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because it's sort of little bits of both of them. Anyway, just a nice, nice bold screen, nice game logo at the top. Kind of that Turrican style when it starts kind of is how all the Turrican games look when they start across every platform. And I don't know how many platforms Turrican made it to, but the others have made it to pretty much loads of them, haven't they? There's loads of them all over the place. So the idea then, like I've said in the little blurb, you must explore the large worlds and levels, and I mean large. The first 3 worlds, like I said, the first 3 worlds have 3 levels each, and the final 2 worlds have 2 levels each. So 13 multi-directional scrolling backgrounds, worlds, platforms, spaces, caves, zones, whatever you want to call them, stuff. The maps are expansive and the backgrounds are really nicely realized in this. Now, I've also watched there's a really excellent technical breakdown video of Turrican, which is by a guy that does technical breakdown videos who goes by the name of...
Bob Technical Breakdown Video.
By the name of Martin Piper. So it's Martin Piper's video. I had to quickly check there, but Martin Piper. And now that is he even examines the loader, for goodness sake. He goes through how it loads and does all that. But if you want to see how cleverly put together this game really is, then I'd watch that video. It's a very extensive, exhaustive examination of all the multiplexers and all the scrolling. the characters, all of the fancy techniques that are going on this. And I can tell you there is some clever stuff going on. Really clever stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that then. So the game features some truly excellent graphics for the backgrounds. I think they look really nice, the graphics in this game, all the way through. This has been a good episode for this. Some really nicely drawn stuff. And I think you've got, because you've got one guy who's done everything, it's just consistent, which I think is always good. If you've got one guy that does most of it, and we find this with another game later, it means that you don't have lots of bits and pieces and the graphics don't get bitty. This is kind of consistent looking, and that's really nice. The game sprites themselves are really, really good as well. Your main sprite is actually 3 sprites. So it's two sprites and then one in the background as an expanded. But considering that is 3 sprites, it makes you realize how many sprites are on the screen at once and how much multiplexing is going on this. Now, if I was to tell you as well that a significant proportion of the backgrounds are characters in this as well, it starts to give you an idea of how much clever stuff is going on. So at a certain point, I counted at least 20 sprites on the screen, and there was no flicker, there's no slowdown. It was incredible, especially when you get to the end bosses that are all sprites as well as you. It's just clever stuff. So like I said, multiplexing off the chart, setting a really good standard for this kind of thing. Sprites everywhere. I quite like the characters. You are quite well animated. Everything seems to be quite nicely drawn and realised. It's of 64, but I think the backgrounds look really nice. And because they lend themselves, and because you have to sort of climb around and jump around, so I couldn't talk about how you control it in a moment, but because the principal part of this is jump and shoot and move around, it does other things really well and really fast. This isn't slow. This is Hawkeye speed stuff. And yet you've got a lot going on and moving around on there, which I think is pretty impressive. So the look and feel, so when you start the game, you'll get past that title screen, giant Turrican top. When you start the game, you will start a kind of a rocky background. Like I said, the levels vary and the backgrounds vary. You've got some kind of black blue sky. That does change later when you get like a weird 3D effect in some of the levels as well. There's some clever stuff going on. And you control your little Turrican character. Now, there's quite a lot to control with him, because principally you run and shoot. Okay, you can do that. But you can also press spacebar and these giant like laser things shoot out and go left and right. I think you get 3 of those. You've also got grenades you can press I want to say F7, but one of the F keys. That launches a grenade, of which I think you have 3. You can then also, as you shoot the enemies, which will just bombard you from the start on this, there's enemies everywhere. They will also drop, I guess they're like upgrades really. And if you pick certain color upgrades, power-ups, they will change your weapons so you get triple shot, double shot. That will also upgrade those. So you can come quite powerful. You get a giant laser at one point. And if you hold your fire button down, you get like an arcing laser that spins around in a circle, like a laser whip, I guess. Yeah. A 360 laser whip that shoots out, which is quite a clever effect and actually really handy. And you can also, I think you press the down and the space bar and you can turn into like a little disc, which is like a little indestructible disc. I forget what they name that now, but it's like a little disc. I want to call it a glaive, but it's not a glaive, but you turn into a little disc. And that's something that's sort of throughout all the Turrican games. And so you can sort of bash your way through things and jump across scenery and do all of that, which is quite nice. So the idea then is to sort of jump around. You've really got to get to the end of the level into this. Upgrade yourself as much as possible because you're going to fight a giant boss at the end of the level, but you've got to get there. And that means exploring. You can go in pretty much any direction you like, and you're able to jump up the sides of the caves pretty easily. So there's none of this kind of jump up the side, not able to quite get where you need to be. You've got quite a good control over your character and how he runs. And now he's really well animated as well. So you do feel like you can just run, blast. This isn't a Note of Yesod type approach to this, where there's like immediate regret the minute you jump into anything. You've got a good chance that because the whole screen updates so fast in this game that everything flies about that much, you don't feel like there's any lag or any reason that the screen is you're going to die jumping into another screen. I never felt like with this, which I have done with those other games, but you don't really get a chance to think because this game is principally a shoot 'em up. So yes, you're collecting things, but there's so much going on the screen, so much to shoot at that you're just running around shooting a lot. So it has that kind of Hawkeye craziness. Now the game takes up principally, I would say, most of the screen, barring maybe 4 rows of characters at the bottom, which is where your UI lives. And that's amazing stuff. I mean, that's a lot of the screen taken up for your game with this. And at the bottom, you've obviously got all the key indicators, and it looks like a little row of icons, and one of them look like a little test card, which I mean, but on the left-hand side, you've got your number of lives, and you've got your number of, you can only use your little glaive thing that you turn into, you can only use that 3 times with any life. So you can only use it, if you obviously stay alive, you can only use it 3 times, so there's an indicator in that as well. Then as you go across, you've got, I think it's 5 icons, and those 5 icons tell you how many of the different weapon things you've got and the upgrades you've got. Now, one bugbear of mine with this was that you don't really control your upgrades, they just kind of happen. Because you can pick them, I mean, they'll appear and you can pick them up, but it's not like you can select and press spacebar to choose your upgrades. They just kind of upgrade the thing you get. which is all right because you never feel underarmed in this game, and you've constantly got something going on. You've got plenty of armament to tackle it, and you'll need it because there's a lot going on and lot of stuff happening. So the idea of the game then is to run across all of this amazing landscape, shooting, and probably not even a chance. Really, you're never going to really avoid these things. Accumulating score as you do, they will all drop different coloured items and different letters, which will be your different upgrades depending on what they are. It depends on what they upgrade. So you can go from a single shot to a double shot to a triple shot. You can get a giant sort of a laser that will shoot out, and none of these things slow down the game in any capacity. None. So it's not like you've got, and we've seen in other shooters where there's so much going on that the whole 64 starts to crack. It just doesn't happen in Turrican. It just doesn't. It's really clever like that. So once you've got to the end of the level, you'll fight the end of the level bosses. They're just basically just giant things. There's a giant fist, I think, at the end of the first level, and they get progressively more difficult. The backgrounds throughout all the levels get progressively more difficult. The game is very tough. Make no mistake, this is a tough game. Mm-hmm. And in that, so each level is a load as well. So it loads that, well, strangely, as you'll find out if you watch that video, some of the code is always present. So some of the level code is present all the time, but it loads in the details and the graphics into each level, which is quite interesting. Mm. But each one is a separate load. And so progression in this game is going to be earned. You're earning your progression to go from level to level in this because it's tough. Now, it's all dependent on how much of that you like. This is very much a jumping around, shooting, and that kind of game. There's a lot of falls in it. There are hazards that you'll get in your way. You can die by dropping down giant holes, for example, which is a bit annoying. And there are other ways you can do it. I think you can run out. There's three principal ways. I think you can run out of time. I think there's a time limit. I can't remember.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
So you can run out of time. You can lose all your energy, essentially, by getting killed. And you can drop into a hole, which is never a good idea. But there are those. That's a little bit of a cheap shot, I always think, in a game like this. You don't really need to put those things in, just giant pitfalls. Bit of a shame, actually, that in what otherwise could have been something great, because those can just be, those are insta-deaths that are unnecessary in a game like this, and just once you know they're there, you're going to avoid it, but it's a bit daft. And also, it defeats the purpose of having a spinny if you press your spinny and just drive straight into a dark hole, which if you do that, you still die. So it's like, because otherwise your spinny is indestructible. So it is tough. It is multifaceted. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to like. There's a few things in it that are a bit challenging. It's a very good game, Turrican. Now, I don't think it's as good as the later Turrican games. They get better. Turrican 2 is on the Amiga is astonishing. But that's because they also introduce shoot 'em up sections and other sections into those, which aren't in this one. Mm-hmm. But it's still pretty good, this. And the music is, again, excellent throughout. I found that the sound effects in the game, because it's in the game itself on the C64, it's just sound effects, isn't it? There is no music. So yeah. And the sound effects are actually pretty good for this kind of thing. They kind of push the action on because there's so much going on. There's so much of them. You do feel, it reminds me of the way the Defender used to work. When there's a lot of sound happening, it feels like it's driving you into the game a bit more, which is nice. So I did quite like this. I think Turrican is a pro-polished lesson in C64 game development. I mean, if you're going to make a run and gun, if you don't do it like this now, you're done. You can't make a game worse than this. It's got to set a real high benchmark. I think this works on a very simple principle, doesn't it? Which we've seen a few times, and I think you've alluded to this before. Get the game loop optimized within an inch of its life and then polish the living shit out of everything. If you do that with a C64 game, you're not going to go far wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what this does in a similar way to retrograde and things like that. This is kind of a retrograde type approach, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So, and I think also, if you're loading in levels, as we saw with Catechist, then throw everything into those loads. Don't sell yourself short. Make everything, put everything but the kitchen sink in there, which is what this has. Now, I think it's a landmark game, certainly a landmark 90s game on the C64, because this isn't actually that far off the Amiga version of Turrican. Obviously, this is slightly better in the sound department, arguably, and the levels are just as expansive, and the controls, albeit that they can get fiddly, just because there's a lot going on, I think. But there's that, because this is part keyboard, part joystick control. There's a little bit of, and there's some odd choices. I don't quite get why you'd have F7 for grenade. I don't know, surely there's a better key for that or some other way, I don't know. Yeah. So there's just these little odd choices along the way. Now, I don't quite understand them, but does it affect the overall game that you play? Not really. It's a hindrance in what could have been something really good. And this probably suffers from this in a similar way to the way Catechist had slight issues around it, in that there's just, this time the character is the right size for what you're doing, and the backgrounds do really work, and it's about the right level of that. But just, again, when there's a lot going on, you don't need complexity in the controls. I like the idea that they've taken away the ability to change weapon, but in doing so, they've actually just made it so you have to just press the weapon separately anyway. So you may as well have had F1 to select your weapon or something like that, or upgrade. I don't know. Spacebar is generally the thing you slam to upgrade your weapons. It just feels like there's just little odd choices that have perhaps hindered it, and those moments where you drop into dark holes in the game, I think that's just a bit cheap. You're also inundated with enemies in this, which, okay, it's that kind of game, and it's not like you haven't got the armament to deal with them, and they do all look really nice. I don't know. Does it get a bit one note though? Because this game it is what it is, but it's good. It's really good. It's good fun to play. It's nice to go back to it. Now, I was a much bigger fan of Turrican 2, and I played Turrican 2 before I played Turrican, but this is a great game to appear in 1990. Finally, we've had a game that looks like it was made in the bloody 90s. And I mean, it isn't in a sea of wondrous stuff, is it? You know, its head would pop out of the pit by process of everything else around it looking crap. So it's not like it's in great company. So it's going to look really good. I think people might have been desperate by the time this came out. Like, thank God for that. Something that's actually half decent. So I don't know. Is it landmark? I think it is. I like the rotating weapons laser thing that you get. I quite like the way that functioned in the game. I like the way it played. It is a little bit punishing in weird ways that perhaps it shouldn't be. But it's, I think, probably one of the best coded games on the platform. Landmark of the C64. And it's obviously better than some of the utter horror shows we've had to do with. I don't know if that's making me think it's a bit better than it actually probably is. Because we've had so many crap things to play. But do you know what? It was a reminder of one thing, that with the right coding skills and dedication, the C64 is really capable of some good stuff, even if you don't quite get it all right. So I liked Turrican. Got 97%. I don't know if that's a little bit crazy score, but all right, 97. I think they're giving it out of desperation. Because just like, thank God something's come along, give it a good grade for goodness sake. So yeah, gold medal, wasn't it? Yeah, I'd go with that. What did you think?
Yeah. Probably best game to come along since retrograde.
Yeah, it's a blaster. Blaster fun.
It's a very impressive game. This my only issue was I couldn't get fully in tune with the controls. There's just something about the controls that I don't know. Probably more me than the game, or maybe not. Maybe down. They're a little bit twitchy. How you land on platforms and stuff, like you kind of land on the edges, don't you? And then jumping off can be a bit twitchy. Also, as well, the way the game scrolls, because when you're trying to jump over those pits, like in the water in that first level, you jump and then the screen follows you upwards, which we've kind of said, but it drops the platform off the bottom of the screen, so you can't see where you've got to land. And because you have to control your movement, so you move it, you kind of like, I'm on it. Okay, I'm on it. Right, cool. And when's the next one?
There's little odd choices here and there, isn't it?
Little bits like that sort of thing. I think they should have got rid of the endless pits, as you said. I don't think it has any. I don't think it adds anything to this, or add pits that if you drop down, you're in a hole and you have to work your way back out of.
Yeah.
Don't kill me because I can't make a jump because I can't see the landing platform. But it's a very small thing in a very big game. There's a lot to admire here. Some huge levels to explore, massive levels to explore. Loads of different ways to, like, and I really like the way when you head into caves and the background sort of changes to black, sort of fades to black, and you come back out into the sunlight and it goes to light again, it goes to blue.
Yep.
That's a really, really good touch and things like that. We've said so many times all those games with all those arcade conversions, it's like, why is the screen black? Oh, well, they have to. No, they don't.
Yeah, Manfred Tread proved it in tests.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's loads of stuff to blast, loads of secrets to find. Which is always good. And it feels like it really is pushing the platform shooter into new directions on the machine. There's nothing much like this, is there really? It's really impressive considering the hardware it's running on. Really impressive. Visuals are decent enough, like you said. There is some sprite flicker on some of the bigger enemies towards some of the ones.
I've never encountered it, but
yeah, I noticed some of the sort of feet, legs disappearing every now and again on some of the ones. I don't know. I was playing the cartridge version. Somebody put it onto cart. Maybe there's a problem, but I don't know. But not much, not very, very, very little. Considering the scope of the game, I can let that off because there's so much going on. Because it never slows down. That's the other thing. It moves fast. The number of power-ups and different guns you can get hold of make blasting the various nasties enjoyable. It's just, it's just too hard for me, though. I got to the second.
It is really hard.
I got to the second level. I got through past the fist, and so, but maybe it's just because had 18-year-old me played this, I didn't.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a different story I'd have had much more better reactions and stuff, and I'd have been more into it. The scope of the game, the technical proficiency on display here, I think they justify the score and the gold medal. I think you give this a gold medal. I think what's here in comparison to what is around, and I think everything else, it's an original game. Yeah, it's based on that. I just wish I was better at it. I have the same. I think as well that, the other game that this, which is not mentioned, but the other game I think that this borrows from is Metroid.
Yeah, I've never played a lot of them.
The early Metroid.
But I think it must be like that.
We have you transform into a morph ball.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I knew there was a game where you turn into a ball, don't you? Is it
Metroid.
Metroid?
Yeah, it's the Metroid games. So the early Metroid games, I think it was only Metroid and maybe Metroid 2 at this point. I'm not sure.
Gotta be.
But yeah, I think they've influenced this. And they're the same sort of thing. You're running along as Samus in these big worlds, shooting stuff, getting power-ups and stuff. I think so. whether that influenced the arcade game, but I think he's taken elements from that. And like Guyana Sisters, clearly he's clearly aware of Nintendo games.
Yes, I think that's safe to say.
So I don't think it's a stretch to say he's probably aware of Metroid as well.
Well, I wonder if he's mentioned that arcade game as a kind of a MacGuffin.
Well, I looked at that. You linked to it. I had a look at it, and I can clearly see the influence of that on there. But I just think there's elements of Metroid in this sort of style.
Oh, no, I agree. But I think knowing that the history that they've had, for him to sort of create yet another game that's blatantly aligned, but it's nothing like Metroid. I don't even know what you're talking about. It's like that weird Japanese arcade game no one's heard of. It's like Psychonix. What are you talking about?
Something that won't sue me and stop us from being published. Yeah,
exactly.
But anyway, yeah, it's a very good game. This very good, and it's nice to have something that's good to play.
Finally, innit? God, it's a relief.
Yeah, it is. It's not been high quality of late. So, but yeah, just Turrican. Yeah, I think it says it's gold medal. But is it better than Retrograde Day? Well, there's a discussion to be had. Maybe later this year.
Maybe.
Anyway, there we go. That's Turrican. Still got 2 games to go in this part. Let's get to the next one, which I'm sure will be ace. And it's British Super League.
This thing.
It's a budget game. And this is the first of 3 games this month from Cult Games. I think I spelt that wrong. Around football. And it's around, and they released 3 football games in budget. It's $2.99. And supposedly going by the score, this is the best of the lot, and it got 60%.
Yeah.
So we're in for a treat.
I'm not so sure about that.
The conversion of this, so I guess this must have started on the Specky, I'm guessing, or the Amstrad, somewhere else.
Or the Jupiter, or the Sword of Japan.
It could be on the ZX81 for the quality of this. It's by Hyperdyne Software Systems.
Oh, dear.
And the coder is Jonathan Wells. Now, he's continued to go on, and he's done loads and loads of Shook games recently. And I mean loads.
Okay.
If you look on Lemon under his name sort of thing, there's just loads of Shook games. He's done loads of them. The graphics are by Michael Smith, and the music is down as being by both of them. So it works as a team.
Fair enough.
When the game loads, it needs to load in data. Data needs to be loaded. Not the Star Trek character, but important football management data, because that's what this is. It's a football management sim. And that's happening. I guess there's an okay, but not really fitting tune that plays along. Music's okay. Doesn't really fit a football management. I was like, what's going on?
No.
What is this? Take some time, this. I'll come to why in a bit later. So once that's done, you get to enter your name, no more than 15 characters. So if you've got a long name, you're screwed. And then you can pick a team from a selection of 16 of the best teams in the UK at the time, supposedly. I chose Liverpool because it was the first choice. I just don't have to worry. But I could have changed the name of them if I wanted. So I could have been Calabos United or whatever.
That's weird.
Whatever. So next, I suppose it's so you can change it to your hometown, isn't it? I could have been Grimsby.
Yeah.
Next, you can get to see the players slowly listed for all 16 teams if you want. Slowly. I'm not sure why you would, because you don't know any of them, and none of them have any detail. They're just names. Oh no, they've got McAllister in their side. Who cares? It's just a name. Who knows? You might be masochistic though, so this slow reveal might be of appeal to you. You might like it. Oh, look at that slowness. It wasn't to me though, so I just pressed M to get to the main menu, and from here, you've got basically a grey screen with a basic text-based input system. Okay, there's no joystick controls here. It's just keys. S to look at your squad. That's N to go to the next game. F to look at the fixtures. T for the transfer market. D for the directors. G for the goal scorers. L for the league table, and finally M for the managerial status. So, at least the keys fit the options. So I'll leave off N for next game and just outline what the options do. So this is kind of similar in style to those other ones we saw, that other one we saw last, but not that graphical one we saw last time. And also Footballer of the Year. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? It's that kind of stuff's going around. Pressing S to see your squad, list their names and positions, but with no discernible attributes. So you have no idea who's any good. It's just a list of names. Now, it also shows your formation, and mine said 4-4-2. So I thought, well, I'll play around. I'll swap a sub out. I swapped to right back with a right back in my reserves, and suddenly my formation changed to 5-2-0.
What?
A formation I am unfamiliar with, as the 11 players were in my team, but attack had just disappeared off the roster. Three players had just gone. I was like, oh, okay.
Got up and left.
So not sure. Intrigued, I decided to leave it at this and see what the game would play out like. I was like, I've got no attack. I've only got 7 players on the pitch, but they're all there. What's going on? You can get info on players. You can click on a player and it select the number of the player. But all this gives you is their name, the position, which you already know, the number of goals scored, who cares, the previous club, which is of no use, and their fitness, which, again, that's...
Doesn't help anybody.
No, it doesn't. You can choose to sell them here as well, if you want. Anyway, fixtures list the upcoming 30 games that you have to play, because there's a division of 16, so you have to play them all twice. Directors shows the numbers. Directors shows the number who support you. I think there's 7, and the number that do not. The amount of money you have, and it gives you the ability to ask for more. I did, and they went no. Oh, okay. Thanks. Goal scorers list the league's top scorers, and the league table shows you. No, I think goal scorers list the league's top scorers and puts you in there. League table shows the league. Managerial status shows your name, your team, which you already know, how much money you have, which you've seen in the director screen, and any honours you may have won, and your position in the league, which you've seen in the league table, although that's a bit weird as well. The transfer system lets you see any players on sale and sell your own players, and that's it, really. So, and the transfer system is quite interesting because you can go into any team, look at any of their players, and just put a bid in on them. The problem is that you have no point of reference. So it just says, do you want to make a bid? It's like, well, how much? Well, yeah, what are you going to say? It's not like eBay or anything. It's just like, I don't know, 30 quid. Your offer is refused. Oh, I thought it would be. And then if you're like 3 million, the directors are going to hate you. Like, what is, you need some frame of reference for this. Pressing N, though, gets us to a bit of funky music when you press N, and it shows who you're up against and the other games as well for that week. You can select P to play the game, or M to go back to the main menu, or you can select 1 to 7 to get a review of another game after yours has played, if you should want it. So pressing P takes us to the match screen, and what we get here is an overhead view of the pitch with a series of small players dotted around it in pairs. They don't move, they're just there. At the top it says, "The Match," in capitals, and underneath this will be the current score. You can press S at any time to bring on one of your 2 substitutes, or you can press F just to skip to full time.
Okay.
You can't ever see the ball, though, and none of these players move. So as the invisible ball moves around the pitch, pairs of players will flash, as if that's where the ball is and a clash is going on. And then a name, maybe from your team, maybe the opponent's, who knows? I know, will flash next to where it says, we're printing next to where it says commentator. It just says commentator. Then it'll go commentator. So players will flash. Next commentator will go Smith, Brown, Evans. You're like, I've no idea what's going on. And then the next set, it's got the time counting up to 90 minutes. This ball will, these flashing things will go around. So if you get up the other end, if you score, for no reason, it will just go goal in synthesized speech. Which is weird. It's a bit shocking.
Weird.
I was taken aback from it. Because the rest of the game is mostly silent, aside from the little cheer should a shot be taken. It's like, it's like that. It's like, and there was much rejoicing.
Hey.
So once the game is over, you get the rest of the results. Some league news. I never got any. There was no league news. There was nothing to report on.
No news.
There was no news. And it's back to the main screen to do it all over again. So after 2 games with my 5-2-0 formation, I had 4 points. That's quite good, really. That's quite a good return for 7 players and no attackers. And a look at the team showed that I was 16th. I was in 16th position out of 16 with 4 points. Then I noticed it doesn't display the league by who has the most points. They're just listed, and so you have to work it out.
Stupid.
So this is the most basic information a league table should display. Whoever has the most points is at the top. And then who has the second most is second, and so on down to the bottom.
Dear.
No, I was bottom of the table with 4 points, but out of 2 games. So I was probably about 5th, I think. This was just ridiculous. So I had to work it out myself. At this point, I gave up, hit run stop and got a syntax error. I typed list, and there it was. The whole game in BASIC. This is in BASIC.
Oh my gosh.
Who is releasing a football management sim game in 1990 in BASIC for £3?
Sheesh.
I don't get it. It's not very good.
Oh, goodness.
I mean,
no.
There's a lot here. Fair play for typing all this in BASIC.
Yeah.
It lists for quite a long time.
10,000 lines of BASIC.
Jesus. But there's no way to save the game that I could see, which is kind of a prerequisite, really, on a football management game.
Yeah.
And the display is dull, grey screens and text, and the football part is just pointless. I mean, I was winning games with 5-2-0. This is rubbish. There's no way to put any tactics in. You can't, the ball just go, it doesn't matter. And the bugs are frequent in the displays. I'm not sure what they were hoping for this. Tracksuit, I'm going to mention it again. Tracksuit Manager is out. and just go play that. It's the best football management sim. It doesn't stand a chance, even at budget. Play that one from last week. It's probably the same thing, but at least it had some nice graphics and stuff, and what have you. And it had that goalie with the bent back. But this is rubbish. There's certainly nothing super about this one. I mean, what? This is the best one. Basically, this is the best one of these 3 games. Jesus, British Super League. No, this is really bad. It's basic. It's basic. I can't get over a basic game being released in 1990. No, terrible. Just awful. This is a very bit terrible management sim. What did you think?
Boring. Boring. So slow and boring. Nobody wants to do this.
No one.
I mean, maybe there's people out there that like this kind of thing. I guess that there are, but there's other games that do it so much better, and I'm not even into this. I hated everything about this, although I did admire the dedication to basic. Has to be said. When you sent me that message saying press run stop, and I did, I was like, goodness me. Someone typed in 10,000 lines of basic. That they need some kind of acknowledgement for that. A golf clap at the very least. The golf clap for them doing that. That's quite good. Golf clap for that. I'm going to set cult games. Careful how we say that. For them to release this, even at budget, I'm like, come on. All this did is save you the hassle of typing it in yourself, which is probably in some magazine from 10 years ago or something. It's just reprehensible. There's nothing about it I like. Nothing. And I'm not even into these kind of games. But even if I was, there's nothing I could find. There's no in. It's dreary. Yeah. A basic game. It's the sort of thing that I'd expect to see in 1983. So, this is 1990. We've just had Turrican, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness me. I mean, now, how many other football games are out there that are better than this? So many. If you like this kind of thing, like you said, Tracksuit Manager or Football Manager, one of the two.
Yeah, Football Manager 2. There's loads.
Way better than this and any other football game but this one. And as we'll see, this isn't even the worst one.
No, it's not.
No, it's just rubbish. Utter rubbish. No. £3 is way too much. And it's got 60%. Come on. I think that's for effort. That's just for the effort that someone actually sat there, because that would have taken ages to imagine bug checking all that basic.
No.
That's dedication, that is. The checksum and that would take about 2 years.
They did start actually typing this in 1983. It took that long to check.
It's just a haggard, bearded, thin person at the end of that process. It's the game, finally. Thanks. Just in time for the World Cup, isn't it? Horrible.
Yeah. Oof. It's not very good, is it?
No. Bloody rubbish.
There we go. Let's leave the British Super League behind, and hopefully the next game. Let's just hope for the just leave it at that. Hopefully the next game, because I don't know what to say about it. And that next game, it's over to you, Graham. And it's time for you to be Striker.
Striker. $2.99 budget price. 5%. Ooh. That's the lowest one we've had in a long time, isn't it?
It is.
This is published by Cult Games again.
Here, the back.
Yes, one letter is wrong in there, isn't there? One letter. It says the conversion is by a Drake. I'm actually thinking that's just a Drake, like a talented duck came along and just coded this. I mean, clucking bell, goodness this. What the hell is this rubbish? Cult Games. Do you know, I looked into what games they've produced. There's a lot of sports sim type games under their belt, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's rugby, Scottish rugby. Now, come on. I mean, surely that's taking the mickey, isn't it?
Yes.
Boxing, motorbike racing, snooker. There's all these horse racing, dog racing. They look exactly the same.
They all look the same, yes.
The football variations had me in stitches. Games like The Match, On the Bench, Soccer 7, Soccer Star, League Football, The Football. There's one called The Football. Imagine that's just the ball. Cup Football, World Cup, 2-player soccer squad. What? Soccer Rivals, Soccer Q, Striker Manager, and of course this one, Striker, to name but a few. There's even more than that. Obviously, there's British Super League. There's dozens of them. This is another basic football manager sim.
Yeah.
They've released a game that's directly in competition with their own game.
Yep.
And that's worse.
Yeah.
And that was in basic. This is worse than a game that was in basic.
Yeah.
That ain't good. This is mostly a game of lists, this one. This is just lists of stuff, mainly. There's a really bad non-listy bit, which I'll come to in a minute. So this starts as it means to go on. Lots of choices, text choices. Say, load a saved game. At least you can load and save a game in this one. No? Okay. Enter your name, max 10 characters for this one. 10 characters. Luckily, Calibos still fit. Okay. Choose a team from such lofty league greats as Scunthorpe, Hartlepool, Wrexham, or Crewe.
Yeah.
So I chose, funny looking back at Wrexham now, but I chose Crewe. Out of that. There's more, but that's just the ones that came to mind. Then you choose a country. for reasons I couldn't figure out.
Well, I suppose because there'll be international games that I think if you play it long enough, I think could become an international.
If you play this that long, you know what? I noticed it also had West Germany in there as part of that. I mean, they don't get unified with East Germany till October 1990, do they? So I suppose it's sort of just before the big unification. They would have been on the cards, though, I feel. You choose the number of points for a win, 2 or 3. Okay? So I chose 3. It's all in silence, this as well. It's just text on a screen and silence. It's lists. This is all the listy bit. And you get the options list. It comes up with a nice sort of striker logo, I guess, at the top with just a nice typeface with a kind of colour effect behind it. The conversion, C64 conversion by a duck. And then you've got the main menu where you've got H for history of career, S for scorers table, L for league table. This sounds horribly familiar when they looked up to the game you had.
Yeah.
The F is for the fixture list, N is next game, T training, A agent, and then 1 save. Well, I make it S for save and then T for scorers table.
Yeah,
but maybe that T
is training.
Make it T. Oh, it's stupid. Anyway, I pressed N because I wanted to get to the next game, and then I could look forward to what I thought would be a little football game against Southend. Wasn't to be, Adrian.
What was it, Graham?
What I got. So I was presented with a very lonely thing. There was a football pitch at a really weird angle with really bright green and light and dark green stripes. Then mysteriously, the pitch lines, I guess you'd call them, are they? The lines of the pitch, drawn on in a very harsh isometric tone. But they couldn't clearly figure out how to draw a circle at an angle. So it's just got a circle in the middle. It's just, bollocks to it. Let's just put a circle on it. It's not, it would be at an angle. It should be like an isometric angle. It's not. So they clearly couldn't figure that out. Then there's just this guy just stood in the goal. Just stood there. There's no net on that goal. It's just like a vector drawing, really.
Yep.
And it's just a guy stood there, a little bit paunchy, I thought, just stood there, not doing anything. It's got a mullet as well, clearly. At the top of the screen is your UI, which tells you your time, which is in game time. And then there's your team name and the score you've got, and then there's the opposing team and the score they've got. I looked at this for a count of 90, Adrian. Nothing happened. I was just looking at this guy. Nothing happened. And then, but in that space of time, Southend scored a goal. I never saw that. Never heard it. Never saw a player.
Nope.
It's just nothing happened. It was just a guy stood in a goal, looking really lonely. No other players, nothing. And the timer just went from 0 to 90, and that was it. Then after that, inexplicably, I got a manager's report.
Yeah, he tells you off.
And it said to me, I'm not totally satisfied with you at the moment, but you're doing okay. Maybe your confidence is lacking a bit. I'm like, what are you on about? I didn't choose anything. I just chose to start the match. I couldn't do anything. There's literally nothing you can do in this game that makes a difference to anything. It's like, I don't get it. I couldn't figure out what was happening. Nothing happens in this game. Nothing happened. All that happened was Southend scored 1-0, and then it went to the results, and then I got my review. What piece of shit this game is. Anyway, I thought, well, there must be more to it than that. I can't. So I tried it again. Exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing happened, and I got exactly the same feedback. You're doing all right, but your confidence is lacking, mate. You're doing all right. I'm not satisfied with you, but you're doing all right. I'm like, look, you're confusing me with your feedback, and I can't control what's happening. There's no players on the pitch. There's only a goalie, and you've got a ball. What's going on? So I thought, okay, I'll try the training. Maybe I need to train the players in order for them to appear or something. I thought maybe that's it. Then the training came on, and it's the same guy stood in the goal.
Yep.
Only this time he's menaced by another player. Finally, there's another player on the pitch with a ball, and then there's this little like target reticule in the bottom left-hand corner going, sort of rotating at an angle. And I couldn't figure out, I could not make it do anything. He just kept booting the ball off and going, no goal, you missed. Oh, you missed. Oh, you missed. I'm like, what is this? Anyway, at this point, I'm like, no, I can see why this is 5%. There's literally 5% with a football in it. That's it. And I think that's because it's got a pitch. I think, and a goalie, essentially, a person in the goal. It's utterly, utterly shocking that this has even been released at £3. I mean, goodness me. I could not believe what I was playing here. It's dreadful. It's a thankless experience. Nothing happens. It's a nothing happens simulator. How can they call this striker? Nobody was striking anything. It's utterly without merit, clearly pulled from some dark football-related pit because of the incoming World Cup. I'm guessing. There's nothing enjoyable about clicking through lists. Just lists and lists of stuff. Lists, all the lists. And then we're still having a football section that featured no football. No actual ball. Just a guy in a goal stood looking lonely. It reminded me of when I used to play football at school. I was always that guy in the goal. I wasn't a football player. I'm not built for football. I'm built for comfort, not for speed. And as much as I blocked a lot of the goal, that was kind of how that's the position I saw the football from. I was at the back, and it was about a good end of field over there somewhere happening. I was like, I don't give a shit. So no, it's reminded me. This is the chubby kid at school's football simulator. This is exactly your experience of football. Periodically, the ball might come at you, but it probably won't. And you're just probably going to get shouted at maybe. There's little sounds in this like you've played the other game. Honestly, in a world where Microprose Soccer and Emlyn Hughes and Football Manager and Tracksuit Manager exist, never, ever, ever play this game, ever. Do yourself a favour. We played this, you don't have to. That is, if ever there was a game that applied to, it's this. Never play it. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you want the same effect, go and stand in your garden. Or go to a football field, just stand in the goal and just look outwards. Because that's exactly for 90 seconds, and that's it. That's the same. That's a real life experience, isn't it? It's just, I mean, you can't tell me you like this.
The other way to do this game sort of thing would be if you've got a partner or someone you live with someone and you've got a garden, just go and get them to stand in your garden and then look down on them from the bedroom window. Don't tell them to do anything, just for 90 minutes and just look down on them from the bedroom window. If they ask what they're doing, just say, just stand there.
Just say, I'm not satisfied with you at the moment, but you're doing okay.
You're doing okay. Okay.
Maybe your confidence is lacking a bit.
Oh dear, this. I watched my neighbour mow his lawn. I was playing this and I was actually looking out my garden, looking out my bedroom window, my office window. So I watched my neighbour mow his lawn. I had a cup of tea and I thought about taking a shot. Striker. That's what I thought. This game is stupid. I mean, to call it a game, it is stupid. What was anyone thinking when this was made? Okay, you can save this. Okay, you can take and play out the most boring career. You could save. You actually, do you want to save your progression? Play the most boring career game in the history of gaming. They've looked at Football of the Year and its sequel, which had already excised any sense of from the first one and simplified it down even further. That's basically what they've done, because the little football bits in those games are what this basically is.
Yeah.
So the first time I played this, I actually had some action. I had my player appear and take a shot. So I got some action.
Wow.
I got some action.
Wow, which that happened for me.
But what happened was there's no instruction to it. I didn't know what it was going to be. So I thought it was going to be press fire to shoot, because it says on Lemon.
That would make sense.
It says Lemon. I think it says joystick port 2. And I thought, okay, that'll be that. I just saw that thing going up and down. And you hadn't taken a shot. I was like, So I did 3 games. I went through trying to hit, and I was hitting the keyboard, everything. And it's S. So when it comes up, you have to press S, don't you, to take a shot. So you have to press S when that bar is basically your aim. So you stood in front of the goal at the thing and you kick it at that angle. That's it. But by this time, because I played 3 games, missed a few chances, I was dropped from the team. So there I was, nothing I could do. I wasn't even in the game now to get forward. And it still just ran these games with that same view, except watch games being played out from one shot of a goalie where nothing happened, even though we were scoring. So we were stood there, we were scoring, and where was that? Where was that happening? Or when I started it again, and then I knew what to do, and so I was playing all right, and I was getting some different messages going, I knew I should have kept you, you're brilliant, you're A, sort of thing, I'm never selling you ever. I was like, so I kept going to the agent and go, please sell me. Please sell me.
Sell me now.
Sell me. Now. Went, no one wants to buy you. I was like, oh, okay, this is rubbish. But then, so we won a couple of games, but we were winning, so 2 or 3-0, but I was only scoring one of them. And those other 2 goals were just ghost goals. I don't know. I'm still no. You don't see anything. It's just ridiculous. So it's just nothing's happening. So then but after about 5 games, I got injured. So I was out of the game again. So I was just watching the screen for 4 or 5 games. Like, what is this? Don't even get me started on the fact the goalkeeper just falls over when he tries to save it. He just goes, and just lay. And when you do it in game, he don't get back up. He just falls off and lays there. So he just lays there, and he's got no pants on.
Because he hasn't got any pants on, has he?
Because he's only one sprite, and they've used black for his hair, and blue for his top, and black for his shorts, and pink for his skin. And they've gone, well, we ain't got a different colour for his shorts. So he's just got long pink legs. So when he falls down to his right,
Stupid.
I don't get this. This must be the single worst thing we've played for this podcast, I think. I challenge anyone to think. I mean, maybe there've been worse games, but they were terribly designed or shoddy. Things like Alice in Videoland and crap like that, Roboball and whatever, and crap like that. Even T-Post Circus. But this works, and it's meant to be like this.
And they specialise in it. They specialise in these kind of games.
Someone thought this was worth releasing. Someone went, what a game.
What a game that is.
Someone sat back and was happy with this. that duck? What the actual fuck?
Yeah.
I'm absolutely just mind boggled by this game because I don't understand it. 5%. I mean, it loads, I suppose, but then it should have got -5 because it loads.
Yeah, true.
I'd rather it just didn't load.
Stupid game.
Oh, Lord. But it caused me some merriment. I had a laugh.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I suppose.
I don't know what happened. There was a tremor in the force, like Turrican sucked out everything that could ever be good about a game, and all that was left were these two.
Do you know, it made me laugh because when I was playing the training in that game, because it's the only time I ever saw another footballer apart from that goalie, he was in a different team outfit as well.
Yeah.
So does that mean that we got the opposing teams to come and train our goalie? Hey, come shoot our goalie, will you? We can't do it. We're all injured.
It's not worth it. There's one sprite in this. They just changed the shirt colour.
Yeah, it's
one
not
sprite,
good.
And there's the isometric. Oh, it's horrible. What a game. What a non-game this is.
Stupid.
I need a break. This is rubbish. We're going to take a break. Hopefully that's entertained you because it didn't entertain us.
No.
It really didn't. We're going to go away for a short break. Just calm ourselves down, and then we're going to come back. We've got music, so singles and albums from May 1990. We will see you in the time it takes a footballer to appear and maybe take a shot.
90 seconds,
which will be a long, long time. See you in a bit. And we're back. After that horror show, let's hope there's some good music to treat ourselves to. Number one singles, well, I should say number one single all month, Adamski with Killer.
It is a good track, that. Well,
yeah, it's a good
I
track.
didn't realise it was number one for that long, but it sort of deserves it.
That's 5 weeks, isn't it now? It must be, is it 5 weeks?
Good.
Is it? Yeah, there we go.
It's
Good track. We talked about it last week, though.
We did.
Or last month. Number one albums, it's still there. First 3 weeks of this month. It's Only Yesterday by the Carpenters.
It's like it's only just begun, but it's been around for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, it has. And replacing that for the last week of the month is Volume 2. 1990, A New Decade by Soul to Soul.
Is that volume 2 or is that volume or?
Oh, you.
In fact, adding extra complication because you've got volume or, then you've got 1990, A New Decade. It's like declaring a new variable.
It's in brackets
almost.
as well, yeah. It's,
yeah. It is actually, yeah. It is. It's an if-else statement nearly.
Almost, yeah. But that was the last one. Right, into the single, 6th of May. In at number 5 is Better the Devil You Know by Kylie Minogue.
Better the Devil You Know. Yeah, good.
It's all right, this. I think the thing is when you listen to this is that you can tell that Saw knew where their bread was buttered for money.
Yes, absolutely.
Kylie clearly was a very hot property at this point. And so it was like, because the production, the actual song quality, not just churned out, in about 2 minutes. This actually feels like and her vocals are good on it. It's got a strong hook. Video's nice. It's a decent tune. It's a decent song. Yeah,
it is. They obviously, like you said, they've obviously invested more in her than they did, say, the Poundland version, which is Sonia, isn't it? So you get this is getting a lot more attention, and she does look crazy good in that video. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, but there's a lot of money in the video, isn't there, as well? So
yeah, I think there was.
Good. A lot of early Kylie songs aren't bad, actually, when you look back.
Yeah, they're okay. Number 8 is Cover Girl. Well, looking back, it's not very good. Cover Girl by New Kids on the Block.
They're not new now, though, are they? They're just Kids on the Block. They've been around a while now.
The normal Kids on the Block.
Yeah,
it's them lot.
They're the old Kids on the Block.
This is rubbish.
It is really bad, yeah. Terrible.
Just dreadful. I don't even know where to start. There's so much badness in this.
The guitarist clearly drunk that's playing in the background of it because it's just like he's off the chart crazy. And his singing is off key.
Yeah.
It's basically out of tune for a greater percentage of that. It's not good, that.
And it reminded me of something else as well, that opening chord sequence. I couldn't place what it was. I was like, it's on the tip of my tongue.
It's derivative, isn't it? Nasty.
Very much so. And that dancing they do.
I'm sick of that dance they do as well, where they jump, shuffle one foot to the left, jump, shuffle the other foot to the right. They do a lot of that.
Yeah.
Stupid rubbish. I don't like it. End this madness.
Yeah. They will be replaced. Is it Backstreet Boys who come along?
Oh, there's loads of them coming along. Thankfully, the acts that follow on this one are never as bad as this. You've got to take that ultimately, haven't you, come in at some point. So.
True, yeah. In at number 18 is Won't Talk About It by Beats International.
No, nobody did they really?
I don't remember this, no.
No, funny that. Off the back of their album as well, this wasn't it? It's like a track off their album, but There's a lot of signature Fatboy Slim style breaks in this. Obviously, I know it's Norman Cook, but this, if you took out Lindy Layton's vocals, it would sound like a Fatboy Slim track more than the other one did.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And number 19 is Take Your Time by Mantronics featuring Wondress.
Yeah, she was a great singer, Wondress. Passed away now, I think. But if you either like this stuff or you don't. I've never really been struck on the big R&B stuff. I mean, very polished, good vocals, but boring, I think.
Yeah, very.
Not my cup of tea.
No. In at number 20 is Circle Square by the Wonder Stuff.
No. No. Is this the Dogs on Strings gang?
It's the Grebo lot, yeah. They've got a bit away from that, though, and gone a bit folksy here, aren't they?
Yes.
And there's a reason for that, because this isn't actually off an album. This is an in-between single. So this is between Hup and Never Loved Elvis, I think was the third album. So it's in between there. And after the second album, the bassist, Rob, the bass thing, Jones, left. Okay. And he was always I always thought he was like the bass sound, it was a bit of a driving bass sound in the first two albums. And when he left, he wasn't replaced very well, I don't think. And they missed that noise. Now, unfortunately, Rob Jones, he died in 1993. After he moved to New York and formed the band, but he had I think it was at Reddit, it was a possible heroin overdose in New York. So he didn't last very long after this. But yeah, he left the band, and I think they were a different sound. They had a different sound.
Bit twiddly, innit?
Yeah. So it was, not for me at this point.
No.
And at number 25 is Backstreet Symphony by Thunder.
Stupid thing. This stupid thing. His armpit hair was off the chart in this. They've all got big hair, big perm, silly hair, but he lifts his arms up at one point. It's like, I don't expect him to shave his armpits necessarily, but don't do that. He's just got these gargantuan arm afros under his bloody arms, and I don't like it. It's horrible. Horrible.
It's not very good. It's a symphony, isn't it? So they've got a conductors conducting it.
Yeah, and he's the drummer in the band, isn't he?
My sides. And also, the rhythm guitar in the verses is probably the most boring rhythm I've ever heard.
Just not good.
It's like it's not. I can't even think of it. It's so boring. Just listen to this and just listen to the rhythm that is that chugging rhythm boringness.
It's just dreary stuff, but the days of this kind of thing are numbered, aren't they? So
yeah, we've spoken about it before.
The end for this rock wankery is nigh, thank God, because I hate this kind of stuff. Where it ended up like this is such a tragic shame. They could have cut it off earlier and had a dignified ending, but no, we have to go through this pain.
Yep. Number 29 is What Did I Do to You? EP by Lisa Stansfield.
Of its time, of its type.
Yeah, straight from the floor of the Pier 39.
It is absolutely from the Irish shite, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, we say every time she comes out, great voice, Lisa Stanfield. She has got a great voice, but don't mean that songs are interesting.
No, they're not. No, there was this. Number 32 is Love Thing by the Pasadenas.
This completely threw me because I did not think that was the Pasadenas.
Did you not?
I had a completely different. I don't know why, but I had them. I think I just got them confused with the with Chrissy Hines band.
That's the Pretenders.
Yeah, I know.
That must be real shocking. Wow, Chrissy.
You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. This is like an alternative New Kids on the Block, wasn't it? Awful.
Yeah, it's not very good. And at one point in the video, they're singing into lights at one point. So it's just madness. I don't know what's going on there. Don't sing into a light.
Well, he's clearly got the soul glow going on. So maybe he could get too near the light. Goodness, his ear's going to go up in flames.
Absolutely, go like a candle. In at number 34 is Softly Whispering I Love You by Paul Young. He does that. He comes around your house and softly whispers. Well,
he does it. He's a honker, isn't he? He's a subtle honker, but a honker are the same. Isn't he?
He's a honker from Luton, isn't he?
You think? It's a honker. Him and Roland Gift were probably chatting honk language to each other.
They'll have a honk. They'll have a honk off.
Honk on, honk off.
Mr. Miyagi said. What am I doing this for? You must honk on, honk off. This will confuse your opponent.
For this, there is no defence. Are you sure about that? Pretty sure they can just push me over.
With a punch. Honk on. Honk off.
Break the leg. Please, break his leg. For God's sake, break it.
Snap. Honk.
Ow.
Oh dear.
Yes. Anyway, so yeah, here's another honker. There's a lot of 80s percussion in that song. percussive sounds of the 80s, which is odd for a 1990 track.
Yeah,
but
so
you'll weep instantly when you hear it. It's soft cheese, Adrian. I've described this is a genre now.
Soft cheese, absolutely. It's a proper primula.
There's a few of these soft cheese tracks though. This time round.
There is. And at number 35 was "How Was It For You" by James.
It needs more cowbell. I thought that
There was quite a lot of cowbell being, but I like this track. I thought James were always
enough.
Cut above their contemporaries. I always thought.
Yes, I would agree with you there. They're an interesting band. And I never heard that song before, but it was very cowbell.
No, that was a bit of a Gullies one. I heard it in Gullies quite a lot.
It might have done, but I would never have recognised it.
How Was It For You? It's a good song. And at number 39 is "Without You" by Motley Crue.
More cream cheese
More
here.
soft cheese, yeah.
More soft cheese. This, goodness me, cheesy.
Yeah, like you said though, unusual chord structure. Weird one.
Yeah, it does. Really odd.
Really odd. But the shots of the leopard in the video made me laugh because there's a shot where the leopard looks surprised and he looks surprised at seeing the leopard, like, which he would do. But
Who brought the leopard?
Also, he doesn't sing "Without You." He sings "Without Chew."
He does sing "Without Chew," yeah. So he's talking about Uncle Chew from Big Trouble in Little China. Eddie and Uncle Chew.
Eddie and Uncle Chew. Could quite well be. And at number 55 is "Keep On" by Cabaret Voltaire.
Yeah. See, now this is a really odd thing because there's loads of remixes of this, dozens of them. Mm-hmm. So the original of this probably sounds nothing like this one. It's very early 90s dance, very heavy on the breakbeat, the sort of semi-breaks and stuff. It's clearly been put together on probably an Atari ST or something. But it's not what it isn't. It's not very Cabaret Voltaire. So I can imagine lots of people rushing out, getting this, thinking, that's quite good, getting an album by Cabaret Voltaire, of which there's probably by now 9,000. And they've gone, wow, that's not what I expected, because it'll just be the sound of a cabbage being hit with an axe and thrown against a car or something for an hour. So, no, because they're quite off the wall, kind of bleak, industrially, whatever. And they do change, obviously, over time. But
are they like Throbbing Gristle?
Yeah, it's that oeuvre, yeah. Cabaret Voltaire. I mean, they did, it's Cabaret Voltaire that did the track that ended up being Eyeball, isn't it?
Right.
I think it's called, I think that's Whip Blow. Is that Cabaret Voltaire? Whip Blow? I can't, I might have that wrong. But anyway, it's that kind of thing.
Wilson could tell us.
He would if he wasn't trapped in this bean tin.
It's roomy.
And there he's going to stay, aren't you, little bean tin guy?
And at number 69 is "Yes I Do" by Shakin' Stevens.
He's still alive. He's still alive.
He's the ever living.
It is. I mean, number 69 is both the place in the charts and his age when he released this song, I think. He is ever living, isn't he? I mean, he's not looking well. I've noticed each song and video are taking the toll on him. He's more sweaty in this. He looks like he's probably recovered from a hangover, or worse still, come down. And his people in his backing group, I'm not sure where they're from. Nowhere good.
No, they look like men you wouldn't leave your daughter alone with.
They do. They're really dodgy.
I was like, oh, his dancing become more twitchy as well. He's really twitchy dancing.
I think he took a trip to People's Park at some point in Cleethorpes, and just at about 11 o'clock on a Friday night, and just gathered up a bunch of tenant drinking crazies and like, you guys, can any of you guys sing? I can. All right. You're in.
30, it's a terrible song. In amongst all that, it's a rubbish song. It's just more old style rockabilly stuff, isn't it?
It's out of place now.
Yeah. 13th of May. In at number 16 is "I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For" by Chimes.
Yeah. Dreary R&B, isn't it?
Yeah. When that starts, she goes, ooh. Oh, it made me laugh. I don't know
it's a big ooh at the beginning, isn't it? I mean, it is very much the club singer from "I'm Going to Get You, Sucker," I think. I thought
this was a bit of a joke, but clearly not.
Clearly not.
28 is "Policy of Truth" by Depeche Mode.
Good song. Moody.
Yeah. More great lyrics. Sublime song. I really like the song. Every track off this is good. Number 30 is "Venus" by Don Pablo's Animals.
Bet you hated that.
Well, I didn't like it.
It's got the woo. Yeah.
Yeah. Over Venus by Bananarama.
Yeah, it ain't good. That ain't good.
No, it's really not. Number 38 is "Rome" by the B-52s.
Yeah, this is a bit of a return to old school B-52s compared to things like Love Shack and stuff like that. But not the really good old school B-52s. It's got the kind of, because the lead singer, not the lead singer, but I forget her name now, the woman singing in it, takes a lot more of the vocal on it in this one. And it's a lot more like their old stuff like Wig and stuff like that, and Private Idaho and that kind of thing. Actually, Private Idaho is probably a bad example, but what I mean is it's a hark back to their older kind of style, but without the kind of heart in that had their style, because the guy that had that passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, the guitarist.
So they're not quite the same as they were, and this is an attempt to get back to that. Not very good.
No,
All
the video's a bit weird because it's obviously really bad chroma key of them sort of, but it has a bit of a whiff of aren't foreigners funny or strange.
Yes, it does have a bit
it's
of
like
that.
It's like a bit of like lots of like knowing looks and behind this chroma key is like, cultures do their cultural thing. They're dancing in there, but like, aren't they a bit weird and strange?
Yeah. It's a bit like that. It's just like I said, it's a bit of a misfire, isn't it? In all directions, really.
Yeah.
Same.
Number 58 is Doing the Do by Betty Boo.
Betty Boo. She is doing the do, isn't she?
She's doing the do.
She did the do.
She's doing the do. She starts off in a school uniform, which was a bit dubious.
She can wear what she likes.
Yeah, okay. Whatever. But yeah, it's all right. I mean, this is a catchy tune in it from the beginning of the 90s.
Yeah, and it's got that I dip and be-do. Kind of, it's pretty catchy, like you say, pretty good. She was kind of a bit of a tip of the spear, though, because she was kind of leading the way in that she was doing this kind of sort of girl power type stuff way before the Spice Girls even came to be a thing. So, and that's what a lot of the songs that she's doing and a lot of that is about. You wouldn't know it from the video necessarily because of the weird outfits and stuff, but there is a little bit of, empowerment to the younger girl in this kind of idea and that kind of, I'm doing the do and I'm doing what I want to do. I quite like that about it. The song was also used later, by the way, in the game Magic Pockets on the Amiga.
Oh, did not know that. Oh, but I did. Well, you've linked to it here. Now I don't know what, but fair enough.
You know it now.
I know it now.
Yeah, she is very eye-catching in that video, to say the least.
Yeah. 20th of May, in at number 25, was Papa Was a Rolling Stone by Was, not Was.
They're back from where we don't know. Where, not where. I don't know.
Yeah, is that another is that a type of if statement? Got a while statement, ifs, a was statement.
It could be, actually.
So
was, not was, yeah.
So if was is not was, then do this lot.
Yeah. It's a do while almost, isn't it, really?
It almost is, yeah. Was, not was.
Yeah. This features a drum beat in it that's been used in over 800 songs, which tells you that it's going to be derivative from the second it starts.
Well, it's a cover, innit, of originally performed by Motown recording act The Undisputed Truth in 1972. That became much better known after a Grammy Award-winning cover by The Temptations.
Yeah, exactly.
And that latter version of the song became a number one hit on the Billboard Hot 100. How annoyed would you be if you were in The Undisputed Truth?
You'd be very annoyed, especially when you heard them put a crappy drum beat over it from Hot Pants by Bonus Beats by Bobby Bird. Yeah, you'd be like, that's not Bobby Bird's drum beat, is it? That's been used on over 800 songs. Goodness me. Do you know what? I'm looking at this and I'm not totally satisfied with it. You're doing okay, but your confidence is clearly lacking a bit. That'd be my feedback to them.
I just stand there in front of an empty goal. Number 49 is Vision of You by Belinda Carlisle.
Soft cheese again, isn't it? Another bit of soft cheese.
It is very soft cheese, but it has that usual Belinda Carlisle sort of strong bridge into a good chorus that we've seen in a lot of her songs. So it's all right. I didn't mind this.
Yeah, video was naff compared to her usual ones.
It's just a wander around. Was she in China? Looked like she was in China.
It looks like they filmed some filmed footage on a spare camera that they had. I'll just bang that together for a video.
Yeah, exactly. Number 51 is Hold On by Wilson Phillips.
Big hit that, wasn't it?
It is. Good track.
Well, in the US. That wasn't such a big hit in the UK, but big hit in the US, I think.
Yeah, I think it's gone on to be one of those bigger tracks. I think people like it these days. I quite like it. I think it's quite good. Good harmonies. They've got good harmonies in that group.
Yes, and they appear, some of them appear in the film Bridesmaids, don't they? Because that's a big component of the film Bridesmaids. They get Wilson Phillips back to sing that song at the wedding at the end of the film. So it's quite good. Good film, Bridesmaids, actually.
Not too sure about the clothes on some of them, though.
No, just they're of their time, aren't they? They're a bit American of their time clothing. So.
Yeah, they look like the various characters from the early episodes of Friends.
Well, yeah, I suspect there's probably some reasoning for that, really.
If you think about when Friends started, those kind of fashions, if you look back those early episodes of Friends.
Yeah, completely, yeah. Actually, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a good song all the same.
And number 69 is Springtime for the World by the Blow Monkeys.
Don't blow on monkeys. Just don't do it. It's not nice.
No. Especially when it sounds like this song.
No, this song's horrible. Arsewipe.
Pretty rubbish, yeah. 27th of May, in at number 2 is World in Motion by England football team and New Order.
Yeah, by England, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you either like these kind of songs or you don't. I don't either like them or hate them, actually. I sit in a kind of camp where they're like, I've never been into football enough to really dig them. So, do you like these songs?
I hated this song. I really don't like this song. I hate this. It's because it's New Order. New Order had a bit of cachet, and then they come out with this, and it was like, oh no, they had that John Barnes rap and stuff like that.
Oh,
so by this point, sort of thing, we hadn't had obviously Three Lions and whatever. But it's just no. Give me Ron's 22 any day of the week. We are Ron's 22.
22. Hear the roar of the red, white, and blue.
This
I remember
time,
that.
or more than any other time. That's
time,
a football
I remember
song.
that.
That's a footy
We're
song.
gonna find a way. Yeah.
Not this.
Why do I remember that? I don't even like football. I can't remember a word of this new order business
it's a
apart
classic,
from England.
Because it's a classic, catchy tune.
But it's weirdly become a bit of a cult hit, hasn't it? For Barnesy, he's still getting mileage out of the old rap that he did in this. People think it was that rap was great. It's like, I said he was responsible for this. That clown shoe. What's his name?
I thought you were going to say Wilson then.
No. I imagine he probably hates it. No, James Corden's responsible for a significant proportion of the love for that song.
Is he?
Because in Gavin and Stacey, they keep singing it to each other and they're sort of, it's a great song, yeah. And it's like, no, it wasn't.
No, it's not.
No.
Don't get my partner started on this because she loved early New Order. And
oh, dear. You've got to dooba-dee-da and then you'll dibba-dee-dee. Oh, that's the end of him. It's been honked.
It's been honked off.
That would be great if referees did that. Yeah, they just honk. That's it. It's not a red card, it's just a red honk. Oh, players walking off really sad.
See. And at number 12 is Hear the Drummer Get Wicked.
Yeah, as
Jackson.
you say, you can't help but say it in the way it's done, doesn't it? Hear the Drummer Get Wicked. It's a very popular track, this, and very of its time, but a bit of a classic, really super classic, actually. That.
Yeah, it became quite big, this, didn't it? Yeah,
well,
very
when Brown Sauce and I recently went to see DJ Yoda, that was a track that was heavily in rotation during that, so yeah.
Number 19 is Star by Erasure.
They're starting to lose the plot. Haha. They're starting to lose the plot.
The chroma key in this is off the charts.
Oh, it's so bad. It wouldn't be so bad if it's bad chroma key, but it's also really crap 3D effects for the chroma key. So you're like, oh, those are like crappy vectors or something off an enemy. That's deluxe paint.
Yeah.
And not in a good way.
Not in a good way, nope. And number 22 is Everybody, Everybody by Black Box.
Yeah. Straight from the floor of the P39. Absolutely. I think I've even heard it in there. So yeah, definitely. Lots of samples, lots of Black Box famous kind of stuff going on in that again. You're like, oh, don't do that with a sampler.
Don't do that, no. Number 24 is The Only One I Know by the Charlatans.
Gulliver's Gold.
Another Gully's Gold one this year.
And you go, your drink.
Time for a pint.
Yeah. The only one. It's a good song, actually, that by the Charlatans.
It's grown on me, but back then it wasn't my thing. So I don't mind it so much now.
When I looked at the video, it looked like his head was a mushroom, was growing teeth.
Well, that's the Tim Burgess way.
It is. Doing the Burgess way. Oi!
Number 35 is Into the Blue by The Mission.
Your favourite song?
No. It's. I always thought. I mean, I thought this was an attempt to be more like the first, as a song to be more reminiscent of the first album stuff, things like Wasteland and things like that. Jangly guitars and that bass line that goes through it. It sounds very, very similar. It's okay. Typical third single. But he takes his glasses off in the video, which I did not and still do not like, and I posted a picture of it there.
No, it's because his eyes are the same size as his mouth. Well, he's got eye mouths.
You think of Wayne Hussey, and you think, like you said, a tiny hat and those round sunglasses.
Yes, you do. He even had them on in the interviews I've seen.
Yeah, you can't imagine him without them on. And when you see his face without them, it's like, it doesn't look like him.
He's realised he's got tiny eyes in mouths.
To go with his tiny hats.
Yeah, that doesn't look like him at all, does it? I mean, I don't know what he looks like now, but it doesn't look. It's not good. It's not a good look.
It's so odd. I mean, he looks fine. It's just, he's a human being, but it's just, I can't get around it because I'm just used to him with the round sunglasses on.
The picture's cracking me, but the more I look at it, it's like someone's drawn a face on a light bulb.
I did get a good still from the video. And at number 38 is It Must Have Been Love by Roxette.
Soft cheese is back. Pretty woman must be around the corner, surely.
It must be because it's in the video.
It is. Must have been love. Good song, good vocal. We always say that about Roxette. Good song, good vocal. It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. Number 40 is Ya Techno Trance by D-Shake.
This is actually a very good track, principally because it is techno trance. Now, it might sound stupid to say that as terms of the kind of genre it is, but what it isn't is house. Not in the traditional sense. It is classed as a house track, but it's actually a much heavier lean on techno house as it sort of becomes, which later turns into hard house, which later turns into sort of hard trance. And so it's the beginning of that with a lot really heavily into it, sort of heavy bass lines and heavy thunderous kind of kick drums and stuff. So I quite like it for that because it's just a bit of a break from the woo, yeah, kind of crap that's been around. It's nothing like that. Good step in the right direction. No idea who D-Shake are though, but it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay. And at number 64 is Istanbul, not Constantinople, by They Might Be Giants. I like this song.
Is a Weeble song. It's Weeble, pre-Weeble.
That's a good call, actually. But yeah, I can hear that. I certainly hear that. But I like this. It's got a really catchy hook, and the lyrics are funny as well. Yeah. Why did Istanbul get all the work? Ain't no one to blame but the Turks.
It is. It's honestly, it's come to Kenya. We've got lions. It's that. It's the posh version of that.
Yeah. It's Istanbul, the Constantinople.
Yeah, it totally is. If you put a Weeble style animation over that, I'd push to tell the difference between the two.
Yeah. What is it? If you've got a date in Constantinople, then you're going to find her in Istanbul. It's like I really like. I just think this is a really catchy song. It's this and obviously Birdhouse in Your Soul. Good double bill of catchy weirdness.
Yep. Absolutely true.
And number 84 is Nessun Dorma by Luis Cobos and Placido Domingo.
Yes. Nessun Dorma.
Yeah.
Nessun Dorma. Which made loads of people go, that sounds amazing. What's he saying? No idea. Something about dormers.
Dorma Bungalow? Do you want a Dorma Bungalow? What's he want?
Placido Domingo. Placido Domingo. Because there was a few of them around at this time. He was one of them. The three tenors, 30 quid. This is where it all began, isn't it?
Yes. It was Pavarotti, Puccini.
Pavarotti.
I think Puccini was another one, wasn't he? Or did he actually write the operas?
No, he wrote them. Puccini's he wrote the operas.
Who was the other one?
Placido Domingo, Luciano Pavarotti, and the other one.
Yeah, the one who no one can remember.
Yeah, Carrera. Yeah, Carrera.
I don't know. Car? I don't like opera. Over dramatic art, as far as I can. I
like some of it, not that one though. And interestingly, I don't know if it's Placido Domingo or if it was Luciano Pavarotti, but
I love how you just really getting the tone of an Italianness in that name.
Pavarotti.
I don't know if it's Placido Domingo.
Placido Domingo, but it's weirdly they were turned down for a record contract originally. Do you know?
I'd have turned them down.
Yeah, because the guy said, quote unquote, no one will pay money to see a fat Italian sing. That's a real live quote from the guy that turned him down. But he's eating his hat now. Or probably Luciano Pavarotti is looking at the size of him.
Oof, he's dead, isn't he?
He eats a lot of people's hats. Well, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Who knows? Shh. No one wants to ever hear Rowan Gift singing an opera.
No, or Paul Young.
No, goodness me, no.
Let's go through the albums. 6th of May, in at number 8 is A Pocket Full of Dreams by Big Fun.
Woo! Yeah. Woo!
Ooh.
No. Awful. Big Fun.
No fun.
No fun.
There's no fun to be had on this album.
No, and it didn't do very well financially either. Big fun, low sales, no fun. Yeah, I think that sums it up.
Yeah. And at number 15 is Charmed Life by Billy Idol.
Oh, stop, Billy. Stop.
He's already dead.
It's just so, no. What is there left for him to do?
Don't know.
You've done it, Billy. Move on. End now. Go home. Take your ball. Go home.
Number 34 is The Internationale by Billy Bragg.
Great Billy Bragg album, that. According to Billy Bragg, anyway.
Yeah, when he was interviewed by Billy Bragg on the Tonight with Billy Bragg show.
Yeah, because he turned down an interview with Melvin Bragg because he didn't want anyone to be... Nobody could out-brag him.
Brag off. Brag on. Yes. Brag off.
Brag off. Brag on. Brag off. Yeah. He doesn't have anything. He doesn't do anything like that, does he? Billy Bragg's... I've never been into that kind of political stuff that he does at all. I know somebody that does really like them. So I don't hang around with them deliberately because I don't want to ever be associated with them. But I do know them.
Yeah, I know of them.
Yeah.
13th of May is number 14. At number 14 is Tattooed Millionaire by Bruce Dickinson.
Yeah, the inevitable album that came out because of the single that he released. I didn't realise he'd done a song for A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, which is imminent, obviously. So
yeah, it is. It's actually a year to the day or something like that from the release of Dream. Nightmare 4.
Yeah.
This is weird, this is, because it's, what does he say? Collaborating with future Iron Maiden guitarist Yannick Gears, Dickinson began creating a solo album which was fundamentally different from its works with Iron Maiden with a hard rock sound that is less progressive. Does that mean they consider Maiden's sound to be progressive?
Yeah, and with titles like Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, I'm not sure you're getting that far into the progressive world here.
I don't know. It's not a word I would have used. You've just gone a bit...
No.
You've been a bit softer. Like, not
Maiden,
progressive.
you're progressive. You're so progressive, Iron Maiden. With a name like Iron Maiden, I don't think subtlety and progression is the thing that is high on their agendas.
No, it's not. In at number 35 is Salutation Road by Martin Stevenson and the Dainties.
Never heard of them. Listen to the track on the live version. They're still going strong.
Good on them.
Yeah, good, yeah.
Number 56 is The Good, the Bad and the Live by Metallica.
Big old box set thing, that.
Yeah. Number 20th of May is number 2 is Through a Big Country's Greatest Hits by Big Country.
Yes, and they probably are big hits for a big country.
Yeah, greatest of hits, you might say. In at number 19 is Pact by the Pasadenas. Sorry, I mean the Pretenders.
Yeah, here they are. Basically, this is allegedly, because it says in the blurb, besides band leader Chrissy Hynde, no other person is pictured anywhere within the album package. At the time the album was recorded, the only other remaining official member from the band's previous album was drummer Blair Cunningham, who plays on all the tracks, though he's not credited as part of the band. All the other musicians appearing on the album are session musicians. Some observers have characterised the album as a Hynde solo recording, using the Pretenders' name to satisfy contractual obligations. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
There's not enough of the Pretenders in it. Ironically, they've got people pretending
To be the
That's
Pretenders.
what I like about it.
Yeah. It's a Pretenders album.
So in actuality, it's probably the most Pretenders album there's ever been because it's got the most Pretenders in it. I like what you did there, Chrissy Hynde. Very clever.
Yeah.
Now honk off. Honk off. Off you go.
And in some kind of semiotic language, is that not Pact? Because it's got an exclamation mark at the end.
Yes, actually, yeah. If we're talking in the thingy, yeah, that's not Pact, yeah.
It's not Pact. There we go. In at number 28 is, God Lord, Lock Up the Wolves by Dio.
Oh, goodness me. I can't believe I thought they had way more albums than 5 out. This is the 5th album from them. Are you a Dio fan, actually?
No, not really.
I think you
maybe
would
a
be.
couple of
I'm
tracks, but not.
I don't know a lot about them really. I know more of them than of them. But
I know more about Ronnie James, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But this bit in it, these can't be real bands, right? So what is it says? It displayed a complete change of musician lineup over the previous album. So following on from the Pretenders, Dream Evil, it's including 18-year-old guitarist Rowan Robinson and Simon Wright on drums. They play for AC/DC, as well as bassist Teddy Cook, who was in the band Hot Shot that morphed into Danger Danger. Rod Simpkins from the Hollywood bands Ryken and Jungle Alley. These are not real bands. I don't believe that. These are just words, it's just names.
They might not be real names. Teddy Cook. Really?
Rod Simpkins. I don't believe this nonsense. It's all Ronnie James Dio in makeup.
I think it is.
This one we laughed as well. Ronnie James Dio stated that the reason for the change was that it became apparent that the former band members had lost interest when compared to Robertson, who was the first member of the new lineup. Oh, we're just bored, Ronnie. It's just boring.
He took them to one side and said he wasn't totally satisfied with them at the moment. They were doing okay, but maybe their confidence was lacking. And I agree with him.
That was it. They left, and then they never got on. They never appeared on another shot ever.
Striker.
And at number 35 is "Take It to the Heart" by Michael McDonald.
Apparently, an American singer-songwriter.
I'll take your word for it. Number 30.
Well done.
Well done. At number 37 is "Love Moves" by Kim Wilde.
That she's got 7 albums out tells you that she was quite highly regarded by a record label to this point.
Yeah,
but this was going to go nowhere, wasn't it? And I've seen this at loads of record fairs and stuff, and not in the good end of the bargain bin either. So obviously, eventually, it ran out of steam, I think. Yep.
In at number 42 is "World Power" by Not Snap.
Turbo B, Penny Ford. Seems strange. You know what you get with Snap, don't you?
Yeah.
They've got the power, apparently.
Absolutely.
Keep telling you that.
And at number 56 is "Let Love Rule" by Lenny Kravitz, his debut studio album.
What do you think of Lenny Kravitz?
I like the classic one track. Are you going
to go my way?
Yeah, that's it.
Because I listened to this whole album today, Let Love Rule, because I've realised that I've heard Let Love Rule like a billion times, the single, but I couldn't remember for love nor money any other tracks that were on it. And there's a reason for that, because they're not memorable in any way. But it was quite professionally put together, and he's a very talented singer-songwriter, kind of. What I don't get, it's the Kravitz conundrum. I always feel like should be way more like famous than he actually is, and yet he is kind of famous, but it's just, I don't know, this is apparently in the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die, this is in that book. So this is clearly quite an important album to some people. But just Lenny Kravitz, I don't know, just like, what happened? I feel like he should be really famous, like way famous, more famous than he is. His daughter's now more famous than he is, isn't he?
I have no idea.
I mean, yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah, Sally Kravitz. You've not heard of her? Oh, she's well famous.
It sounds like a soft cheese.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it is.
Smooth on some Sally Kravitz on your crackers.
And enjoy a peaceful afternoon. Get your confidence back.
That's Kravitz. That's the Kravitz effect. Maybe that's where he made his money.
Does your soft cheese not reach all the crevices? Then Kravitz will get in those crevices. In at number 27th of May. 27th of May. Number 1, Volume 2, or Volume Or by Soul or Soul. We've talked about that.
Yes. No one, volume, or, and then in brackets is an if statement. They're gradually becoming more and more logical and operational. That's all they're becoming.
That's all they're becoming. Number 2 is I'm Breathless by Madonna.
That's where it came from.
We couldn't remember the album title. Could be Vogue.
Yeah. Vogue. It's a soundtrack to Dick Tracy, isn't it, essentially?
I don't know. I don't really remember much of this album, if I'm honest. Apart from Vogue.
It was released to coincide with the Dick Tracy film, which she was in. And so a lot of the songs are from that kind of, that oeuvre.
Well, you know what that means, don't you?
Vogue is on there, so why that's on there, I don't know. But
we've got the Dick Tracy game to play at some point.
Yes, and the film to watch.
The film to have a look at, yeah. Number 8 is Passion and Warfare by Steve Vai.
It had to come out eventually, didn't it?
Yeah, he had to release something. But, I mean, it's Steve Vai. It's lots of technical, virtuoso guitaring. Know what you to expect going in.
I mean, it's not as fretboard wankery as you might think it would be of an album of that kind. There's actually some quite gentle little songs and stuff like that. And it's more unusual sounding, actually. It's not quite what you expect. It comes at you a bit of an odd angle, that album.
Yeah.
It's good, and there's some amazing tracks in it, but it is a bit odd.
Yeah, and his fingers are still massive.
They are crazy. And I tell you what, I've actually had proof of that, because I went to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, the famous in Los Angeles. They've got like a guitar museum, and on the front of it, you've got all the handprints in the sort of kind of Steve Vai's alien, whatever the fuck they are. They're at his hands. So you've got like people like, you can put your hands in. You go, look, my hands are about the same size as this one or that one. And you've got there people like Slash and stuff like that. And then there's these giant, no human can have fingers that long. His fingers are at least 2 inches longer than your average human.
Yeah, they're massive.
They are massive. He can literally reach from one end of a fretboard to another with one finger.
Yeah, it's just crazy. That's how he plays all his crazy chords and stuff. I was watching the video today for that one you linked to, which was playing live at the Expo Sevilla 1992, Love of God. And I was just looking at his fingers going, he gets his little finger all the way across to the top string, and his index finger, it's just, what is going on? Fingers don't move like that.
No, especially when you're wearing frilly things. I mean, he's got his outfit's a bit wild in that, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You know, he looks like an extra from Doctor Who.
Yeah,
but crazy good.
Yeah. Also, as well, that was the Expo Sevilla with where it was all the guitarists, wasn't it? And he's no Brian May.
It's interesting, actually, that I've rewatched I watched that reasonably regularly, but I rewatched it for this particular podcast purely because when Steve Vai does play For the Love of God at that particular expo, that's the first time he ever plays it in front of a live audience. Yeah. And it is absolutely mesmerising, because a great percentage of it is made up on the spot. It's a lot of ad-lib. And he never quite plays it that way again either. If you look at the later versions where he plays it live, it's not as good or as kind of the same as that. There's just, I don't know what it is about it, but that performance is just incredible. And it reminds me of how amazing a guitarist Steve Vai actually is. I know he's a really humble guy. You've watched a lot of modern interviews with him. He's a really genuinely kind, humble guy. He's just incredibly talented. I mean, but the guy was taught by Joe Satriani at one point. I mean, if you're going to be taught by anyone how to play guitar, he's probably a good crack, isn't he?
He's a good one to pick the brains up.
And when they're all on stage together, I mean, in that one point in that, they're all playing, they've got the lead singer of Free singing All Right Now with Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Nuno Bettencourt, Brian May, Joe Walsh.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness me. You've got Cozy Powell on drums, I think, at that point as well. It's just incredible lineup of musicians, but that performance is amazing. It's worth watching it. I'll stick the link in the show notes. Definitely worth watching that. And he is a insane guitarist. I think you should never judge Steve Vai by his time with David Lee Roth, although he does play amazing stuff there. Steve Vai's time in music. I watched Bill and Ted's after we'd been talking about it in the last episode. I watched both Bill and Ted's, well, all of them, but I watched Excellent Adventure and then I watched Bogus Journey. And it's easy to forget how good the guitaring little diddly bits and all of that are. And that's all Steve Vai in there, all of it.
Yeah.
And that bit where Beethoven's playing and he's doing that crazy, that is all Steve Vai, all of it. It's like, that's just crazy.
Yeah,
crazy
very good. Very, very good.
Yeah, very excited guy.
Finally, just to round out the month, in at number 23 is Born to Sing by En Vogue.
The
debut album. Yeah, we saw the single, now we get the album.
We do. And weirdly enough, the best track that I remember them for isn't on that album.
I didn't think it was.
No,
I thought it was a bit later. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's the music.
There it is.
He drives me.
Wherever I lay, my heart is home.
It's wherever he lays his honk. Thanks, Paul, I think.
There we go. Right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We've still got quite a lot to go through. Another 4 games still to get through. Hopefully the quality will be better than it was in the first part. Find out after the break. Okay, still 4 more games to go in this episode 150 milestone. Let's get into them. The first one, fast into it. This is Fast Food.
It is.
Fast Food. This is from Codemasters.
It is.
Home of the simulator.
It is.
And this is a Dizzy spin-off in the shape of Fast Food for £3, £2.99. Originally coded and designed by the Oliver twins. And in fact, it's actually quite interesting. If you go to Moby Games and you look in there, I think it's in the specifications bit, there's tons and tons of their sort of design documents and stuff for this.
All right.
Loads. It's really cool. I was looking through them. I was like, it's quite good, like old code and stuff like that. Because I think they programmed it on the Amstrad, ported that to the Spectrum, and then we got port over.
Okay.
So, yeah, the Ollie twins, that was good. This was ported to the C64 by Vision Software with Jamie Irvine and Peter Goldsmith on code, graphics and loading screen, with music by Steve Barrett, and the box art was by Nigel Fletcher.
Okay.
Someone on Lemon called Mad Gaz, just to give him his quote, stated that this was originally a tie-in for the long-gone Happy Eater service stations.
I can't remember them. Wow.
But the license fell through and Dizzy was shoehorned into the game.
Huh. Okay, that makes sense.
It does make sense. You could see it like an egg. Yeah. You could see it anyway, yeah. Whatever the specifics are, we've got another Dizzy game, but not in the style of game that Dizzy usually frequents. No, this is a maze game, more in the style of Pac-Man. It's a Pac-Man. So it's a maze game. So, because you see, according to the back of the box, you must help Dizzy eat the pepperoni pizza, the finger-licking chicken, and big juicy burgers, then catch dessert, a milkshake, ketchup, and relish.
Ooh.
But watch out for Bonzo, Fido, Whizzer, and Pipper, because they're after you.
What were they into the ghosts in Pac-Man?
No. There's no. This is these characters have no seeds.
Yeah, they've got no seeds after these buns.
After the decent enough loading screen, Dizzy getting chased by the those aforementioned bad characters, Bonzo, Fido, Whizzer, and Pipper, I guess. There's the title screen, and it's got a jolly tune, quite nice tune, and unusually it's got a key change in it. Don't normally get key changes in C64 tunes. There's actually sort of pops up a key sort of midway through. I was like, oh, that's quite unusual. Don't normally get that. It's got a decent logo and layout. The bad guys patrol, and it's got like a little intro at the bottom. It's got an animated bit at the bottom. Bad guys sort of patrolling the bottom of the screen, and there's a little instruction about them. And this is sort of paraphrasing what's in the instructions. It tells us that Bonzo is green and that he is slow and stupid. Whizzer is yellow and he is fast they are fast and stupid. Pipper is the brown one. She is cute and deadly. Ooh. And finally, Fido is blue, but he's slow and sure.
Yeah.
So no. They basically look like the Pac-Man ghost, but with legs underneath them, to ensure there's absolutely no copyright infringement to see here. So that's what we've got going on. We get some instructions as well. F3 to pause the game, F5 restart, and run stop to abort. There's nothing else to do, though, so we can press fire to start the game. And at this point, we can choose any of the first 20 levels to start from. Now, there are 30 in total, but it's quite a nice touch that we can start much later if we have previously gotten that far into the game and we just want to skip through to where it gets quite hard. That's nice, like that. Good touch. Obviously, we want to start on screen 1, so we just press fire when you're on there and it gets us going. So what this is, it's a single screen game. It's a single screen maze game. And it's actually less than that, really, because the game is split into 3 vertical sections. On the left is a graphic from the loading screen of Dizzy being chased, what we saw before. In the middle half of the screen, so if you split the screen into quarters, left-hand quarter is the picture, next 2 quarters is the game, and on the right is the UI. So that's what this is like. So the UI as well it's weird how much sort of screen real estate space is taken up with non-essential stuff. So it's got the logo for the game and Codemasters in that UI on the right, taking up quite a big chunk of it. It does. Obviously very important information, but it's also got the score, your number of lives, and the level you're on. So, there's not much screen assigned to the game, which is a single, but, it is what it is. I guess the maze is nicely drawn in. It's like a little sort of effect as the maze comes in. It's got good effect, and we get a get ready to prepare us, and it won't actually start until we press fire to kick things off. Always kind of a little bit of a fan of that. You can get going right away, or you can if you leave this game, it won't start without.
Give yourself a minute. Yeah, give yourself a minute.
The maze itself is fairly small, and the first level just see some burgers, chicken, and pizzas ambling about. Most of them are actually stationary. There's a couple of things that are rambling about though. And all we have to do is catch them all, and that's it. You just got to run into them, and then you progress to the next screen. So as the screens progress, we start to get the enemies introduced. So, Bonzo, Fido, Whizzer, and Pippa, they start to get introduced one by one. And they complicate matters. And the food itself starts to take on a personality as well. There's quite a bit more to this. So, they've got different characters. So Bonzo will Bonzo will home in on you, or will walk away. Whizzer, it's basically what the ghosts do. They've got different sort of AI traits, what you see in Pac-Man. But the screen, the food starts to get, according to the instructions, the burgers are blind, so they're easy to catch and eat because they're not stationary. They wander about, so you can just wander into them. The chickens, though, are not blind. They don't want to be eaten, and they'll do their utmost to run away from you. Right, so you have to chase them down. Yeah, chickens, that's what they do. The pizzas are cool with being eaten, so they're pretty easy to catch. And the milkshakes want to be drunk, and they'll actually make their way towards you. So that's quite interesting. As the levels progress, power-ups and things will appear, which can be in for various effects, such as magic boots, which double Dizzy's running speed for a while, relish, which is in a green bottle, which slows down the monsters, mustard in an orange bottle, freezes the monsters, and ketchup in a red bottle, which destroys the monsters for a limited time. There are also shields to pick up, which lets Dizzy eat the monsters, kind of like the power pills in Pac-Man. Tokens that make you invisible, so you can pass through the monsters. And there are also tokens to slow everything down, so everything goes at treacle speed, or speed everything up, everything goes really fast. Should you make it through 3 levels, you get a little humorous cinematic where Dizzy is chased by a monster but manages to get away in a car or a lift or so on and so on. There's 10 of these as well, so there's 10 of them. They're all different. And they're no way inspired by the little cutscenes in Pac-Man. No, Seri, not so all. Also, get to these, they give you an extra life as well. That's cool. In the later levels, there are thin hedges which only Dizzy can pass through, and there are dead hedges which Dizzy can knock down with a bit of a run-up. So you can actually, the maze gets a bit more complicated. But it is a maze game, single-screen maze game, a la Pac-Man. And so your enjoyment of this is going to be measured by how much you like maze games. How much you like maze games is basically how much you're going to like this. The mazes here are not as big as Pac-Man mazes, and the whole game is a bit on the chunky side, and it's a little cramped considering you only have, like I said, those middle 2 quarters of the screen to play in, the left and right quarters taken up with UI elements. But the size of the maze is actually exactly the same as the original Amstrad and Spectrum versions. It's no bigger, no smaller. They are all exactly the same size. Even though the Spectrum version takes up more screen, it's the same amount of character space. It's exactly the same. The Amstrad version has pretty much the same layout as the C64 version. And I actually thought, after looking at both of them, I thought this actually ran a little bit smoother than both those other versions as well, than the Spectrum and Amstrad versions. The sprites are okay. They're chunky. They're just medium res sprites. You can recognize Dizzy as he goes about his business. And the various food stuff, if you squint your eyes a bit, like chicken looks a bit like chicken and pizzas look like chicken. That's just what they are. They're just simple sprites. I like, if you squint your eyes, it's easy to navigate around. There's some nice elements to it. I like the fact that food and enemies cannot pass through each other. Thought that was a good touch. So when they meet in a maze, they'll reverse direction. So that actually allows you to use the food stuff. There's like temporary shields. So you can there's a little bit of strategy there. So do you collect it? Do you go into it, or do you let it bounce the monster away and then collect it? So it's not always just going and doing the obvious stuff. There's a little bit of thought process, especially as there's more monsters appear and there's more stuff going on in some of the later mazes. The music plays throughout is jolly. So that's good. The biggest downside here is that death resets the entire maze and makes you collect everything again. So everything reappears. So you have to do it all over again. It can be a real pain in some of the trickier later levels, which are already hard enough to navigate around. So that's a bit of a downer, but it is what it is. And don't forget, if you're up to level 20, you can just start at that level, even if you run out of lives. That's not a bad thing.
That's true.
However, for £3, and if you kind of like maze games, I think this is kind of perfect budget fodder, really. It does one thing and then keeps layering on elements to mix it up as the levels progress, one at a time. The levels get more and more tricky, the mazes get trickier, but it is what it is. It keeps things simple. The premise is easily recognizable and understandable, and the whole package has a pleasant, jolly atmosphere. There's nothing wrong with this. The pace is a bit sedate, maybe, but then the speed-ups feel more like power-ups when you get them. They actually sort of feel like, oh, this has gone really fast. The fact the power-ups also wander about, so they sort of come on blinking, and then they start to wander about as well. So you have to go and run around and chasing after them, makes collecting them a decent challenge too. For me, I found this perfectly acceptable. And maybe it got 62%. Maybe that's a bit harsh, considering they gave British Super League 60%.
Yeah.
Either one's overmarked or one's undermarked. It's one or the other, because this is so much better than this is perfect, doing exactly what it does, and it's fine. It does well with some really nice presentation and code around the edges, like I said, all those little trimmings of like the sort of the way that things fade in and fade out and all that sort of stuff. Works really well and smoothly. It runs. There's no frame rate skips. There's no flickering. It's all good. I couldn't complain about this. I found myself enjoying my time with it. Maybe because I've just played Striker and British Super League, but it's simple. It keeps it simple. It's in the budget range. It's a perfect budget game for £3. If you like maze games, that's where your mileage is going to come from in this. But I don't think, if that's what you're going in for, the 30 levels of doing that, you probably get your £3 worth of enjoyment out of it. I thought this was all right, because I thought it did exactly what it said it was going to do. What did you think?
Basically the same, actually. I mean, it's good budget fodder, this, and it's in the mostly harmless category, isn't it? Mm-hmm. There's a few things I didn't like, but they're not necessarily things to do with the game. I like eggs, but I don't really like Dizzy. I don't know why, really. As a character, I've just never really decided. I think he sort of belongs on the spectrum, and he always felt like he was just put onto the C64 because it was there. And this is one of the better transitions for Dizzy on the C64, at least, anyway. Mm-hmm. And it's leaning into the Pac-Man thing, but it adds more to the party. We've seen that done. The Sensibles did this not long ago with their version of Defender, didn't they, really?
Yeah.
With Insects in Space. So they take a game and you add a few variations, and there's some nice additions to the logic of Pac-Man on this, which gives it a nice feel. It could do with being a bit bigger on the screen and a bit more to see, but it's all right. The idea of the game and the central conceit works well. It's polished enough for it to look quite nice. There's nice production here, if nothing else, so it does feel like a complete game, leaning on the arcade sort of tropes and things, and that's never a bad thing to do for budget money. So it's a decent budget game. Your mileage will always vary on these things, how much you like Pac-Man, as you say, but also whether you can dig a dancing, moving egg. Now, I do have time for eggs, but not always Dizzy eggs. I don't know. My final thought on this was exactly as yours, actually. I made a very similar note. How can you give this 62, but give that crappy Super League game 60%? I think that one deserves to be less, without a doubt, but this one deserves to be more. I'd have put this in the 80s.
Yeah,
this is a good, solid budget game. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's not buggy or anything, And if you get, for £3, you'd get plenty of game out of this. Because some of those mazes later on, like you say, they're not challenging because the mazes are hard. They're challenging because there's just these clever little things going on and you've got to think about things a little. That's never a bad position to be in with anything.
Yeah.
So I thought this was good. Again, I'm not a big Dizzy fan, but it's a good Dizzy game finally on the C64, and it's for budget money. Just robbed by Zapped. I don't quite know why, but who knows? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't give them enough eggs. I don't know.
Quite possibly. But there you go. That's fast food. Decent. Decent little game. It's all right.
Right.
Yeah. Let's move on to our next one. And Graham, it's over to you to put on your short shorts, put on your white top, and head out onto the court and tell us all about Pro Tennis Tour.
Yes. Well, this is it, haven't I? I get my tennis racket out, and that's as much as I know about tennis.
New balls, please.
I've exhausted. New balls, please. 50. You don't, see, that shows you I don't know anything about tennis. They don't have that score in tennis.
No, they don't. No.
I don't know why I said that. Anyway, Pro Tennis Tour, $9.99, 82%. So actually, that's not bad, is it, for a tennis game, that score? This is from Ubisoft, and its design is by Blue Byte. The conversion is ESP. I'm not sure what that means. Was it converted by ESP? Maybe we'll never know the answer to that. Probably was. But the coder here is Mike Brown. He did Joe Blade 2. No bad thing, I suppose, if you like being kicked in the head.
yeah.
Graphics are by Stephen Day. Now, Stephen Day has done the graphics for loads and loads of games. He's still doing them. Still going strong.
Can't be stopped.
No, some of his later games have been doing as much, as recent as like 2023, I think, 2022, 23. Wow. So he's still going. He did BMX Simulator 2, if you want an old school game that he did. And the musician here is Tony Williams. His track record ain't as good. Droids, Judge Dredd and Shinobi. Oof. Okay. But luckily, a tennis game isn't relying on its music.
No.
Is it? Not really. So there is a blurb for this. It's a bit of an odd blurb. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's quite long, because it's got the origins of tennis. And do we really need to know those to play tennis? I don't know.
Not really.
Not really. I mean, it even says the first sentence. Some believe that tennis was I'm trying to do it in that Battlestar Galactica voice. Some believe that tennis was practiced all the way back in the times of Homer and Ovid. Who's Ovid?
I don't know.
There are also accounts of similar games being played by the Toltecs, the Mayans. This is honestly Battlestar Galactica. This is the second time ever I've seen the Toltecs mentioned in anything.
Dun, 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 dun,
I'm tempted to, I'm tempted to put that music on and do this. All right, I'm going to have to do that, aren't I?
Yeah.
So some believe that I'm going to get that. I've got the music from the beginning of Battlestar Galactica, like diddly-doo bit. Some believe that tennis was practiced all the way back in the times of Homer and Ovid. There are also accounts of a similar game played by the Toltec Indians of Mexico. Frescoes in Egypt, Spain and Renaissance Italy depict a game much like that of tennis. In addition, several books in the 16th century were written about games akin to tennis. But of all the educated guesses, one of the more popular beliefs is that tennis had its origins in the late 19th century in Great Britain. I'm not going to go any further with that now. That's it. That's just tennis.
I think it's enough.
I thought it was French. I always thought tennis was French. But what do I know? I'm no expert, and even if I was, I wouldn't tell you. Anyway. Right.
Tennis.
I thought, well, it's 50. It feels like a French game. I don't know why. Anyway, so this is a tennis game. It's an oddball game, this, actually, pardon the pun. And there are things to like and things to not like. The first thing I'll tell you what I do like is the simplicity of this game's like menu selection screens. They just do what they do. So you start this game, it says Pro Tennis Tour in giant letters, tournament, practice, mode, ranking. That's your options. And if you choose mode, that's the difficulty setting. Easy, advanced, or professional. Boom. It's like some kind of Cockney guy going, all right, mate, what do you want? What do you want? Practice, 2-player, machine service, boom, bish, bash, bosh, done. You just options. It's not option heavy. This is just, it is what it is. If you choose tournament, you've got play or give up. I love that. Play or give up. What are you doing? It's almost aggressive with you. What are you doing? Play tennis or what? So it's a bit like that. When you get the ranking, it made me laugh. You click on ranking, it gives you a list of 8 people who are in the charts. Who are they? You end up playing them. Is Mr. Brown, Mr. Day, or Mrs. Day? So it'd be Brown, it's Brown, Day, Wildsmith, Bethel, Mason, Thompson, Woods, and Stevens. They're in there. Then you enter your name, and you can obviously change it, put whatever name you like. Guess who I chose? Of course, Mr. Galibos. And then I chose a tournament because I think I just want to get into the tennis game. And my tournament was the Australian Open in Melbourne. Oh. This is all told to you in ginormous writing on the screen.
It's massive.
This is not delicate tennis like UI. This is just in your face what it is. And you get shouted. It's like shouting out. Your next match is the first round. Calibos ranking 32 versus Mr. Falaga. He's ranked 15. Get on with it. It's like, wow, okay. And then when the game finally starts, it's actually really surprised me, this. So it's kind of traditional tennis view, but it's a little bit closer in. Just a hair closer in. So you still got the net in the middle, and you still start at the back of the court or the front of the court, depending on who you are, the back. Mm-hmm. So you'll start with your player is closer to you, and you're serving into the screen.
Yeah.
And your opponent is on the opposite side. On the left and right, normally you see great swathes of tennis fans, but in this you just see the little corner, so that you've got a hint that they're there, but then the angle of it means that you're not wasting your time looking at lots of side screen. It doesn't do anything. All of the screen here is principally the width of the game, which is nice. Your player, your table tennis player, your tennis player is quite tall sprite. He looks like a well-drawn sprite for what it is. And so does the opposition. You've got the umpire and all the other characters that are featuring tennis in the background, and there's like a little score window keeping you up to date. Mm-hmm. That's all the information you need on the screen at any given point for this. Obviously, the court is green. I don't know if it changes to clay courts. I never played it that far into it, but it was just on grass court when I was playing it. And then you play tennis. Now, the good thing with this game is that it's not it doesn't overcomplicate how to play tennis in terms of the controls. So, because I quite like the idea of these sort of games, and we've said this about games like this before, that when you start these games, because this doesn't have all those crazy options that we've seen in many other tennis games of this type. When you get to the game, the last thing you want to do is have lots of faffing about, clicking on this and trying to figure stuff out. This game takes no time to figure out how to serve. You press your button, a little target thing appears, drops down into the opposition box, as it were, just in front of the net. Mm-hmm. You click your button, and that's where you serve, and that's where he hits it, and then he responds. Now, timing the return of once they hit the ball back to you, and then you hit it back to them, that's where this game starts to get a little trickier.
Yeah.
Because you'll spend a lot of your first few, and I recommend you practice this, but you'll spend a lot of the first few games of this just waving your racket around in the air and not hitting the ball. Eventually, you'll figure out that you can hit the ball. You've just got to be in the right position. You've got to time it right. But you press fire to hit the ball. And if you time it right and press up or down, you can do a lob or you can do a strike. And you can actually direct and change the way you hit the ball a little bit. But you've just got to master those controls. And the controls are pretty intuitive. You move your tennis play around, obviously with the joystick, and then you press fire to hit the ball. And depending on which side of you're on, whether you do what do you call it, a back...
Forehand or backhand.
Forehand or backhand, it depends on which you're at. It automatically changes over for those, I think.
Yeah.
And it's sort of... I always found myself in the right place at the right time, just not necessarily hitting my button at the right moment. Now, I don't know if that's just my reflexes, and it took me ages to get used to it. But in the end, after practicing a bit, I was able to actually have some quite good volleys with the opposing player, albeit in the lower ranks. As soon as you get past the first couple of, if you win the first couple of matches and you get to like the higher ranks slightly, they annihilate you, which is a bit annoying.
Yes.
Because and to the point when they're firing aces at you and you simply can't respond. I don't know if I'm just cack-handed or whatever, but it just got silly. So they were just going, it was ace, 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 ace. That was it, game. Ace, 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 ace. I could not. And when it was my turn, I was sitting it, they'd hit it back and it was impossible for me to get to it. It felt like I couldn't. It was just, it felt like the odds were stacked against me, and the AI, or whatever they call it, the game logic was really heavily computer friendly. It wasn't friendly to the player. Two-player, I think you'd have a much better game of this, because you could both be equally inadequate. But, the computer player, after the first couple of ranks, the player you fight, I think he was ranked 9th or 8th. It was impossible. It was just impossible. He moved faster. The ball was coming at me faster. I couldn't move quicker. There's no way of getting quicker at any of these things. It felt like it was impossible. There was no way I was going to beat it. And even if I returned the ball, he returned it at such a pace or in such a way that I simply was overmatched. And maybe you just need to practice a lot. But the graphics in this are pretty good. They move fast. I'll give it that. I found that the game of tennis moved quickly along in this. There was no sluggishness. You're moving around the court pretty fast, and it actually felt more like a arcade-style tennis game, this, and less like sort of some of the Sims. So they've gone for a more of a approachable, just get in, get on with it, play the game, and you'll figure it out. And it just tracks your score very simply, and then you'll move yourself up the rankings, and you can sort of carry on and do that. It's not bad, actually, this. It's simple in terms of its presentation, I'll give it that, but it's actually, what that does is it just means it expedites things. So you're not hanging around having to, because if it was like those other sports time games that we've played where you've got, what kind of racket do you want? What kind of strings do you want on it? What kind of lighting would you like? Are the light bulbs too bright? Your shoelaces are going to be green. When you get to the minutiae of those, this is choose whether you want tournament, practice, whatever you want. Tennis is happening, go. And I quite liked about it. And I found the controls were pretty straightforward once you get used to them, albeit that it does take some time to get used to them, especially positioning yourself so you can hit the ball in the right way. That does take practice. But this looks like a really good tennis game. It plays like a good tennis game, albeit that it gets too difficult. And they kept the simple principles. And by just shifting the screen in slightly, you actually get a better view of the game. And it's actually quite enjoyable to play. And you're able to move around pretty quick. So I quite liked it. The logic of the game, simple. It's nice and fast. It's not sluggish. It's not treacle speed at any point in this. The physics of the tennis ball are pretty good as well, all said and done. The sounds are a bit sparse, but it's tennis. So what sounds are there going to be? It sticks to the core of what tennis is, doesn't wrap it up in too much fudgery. And I think it's better for that. Now, it doesn't mean that it's a great tennis game. It's a good tennis game. And it's probably one of the better ones we've had, because we haven't had any for quite a while, have we? It's just been the first one in ages. So I liked it. I liked the view. I liked the way it played. It felt very arcadey. It felt of an arcade type, more probably towards the Mega Drive's targeting, or the Master Systems have probably got games that are a bit like this. So it has a nice leaning, and it doesn't feel overly C64-y in the terms that even the sprites don't look that squat and fat. They actually look pretty well defined for what they are. I liked it. I like this. I quite like this tennis game that I played. I enjoyed my time with it, and I found myself, not getting into it, but not getting out of it. It's pretty good. Leans on those arcade traditions. Not a bad old tennis game, all said and done. I wouldn't say it was game, set, and match, but it's certainly, certainly one of the better tennis games we've played. And you can at least just get into it, which is always a good thing with these games. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much sure. I'm not 100% sure what to make of this. It's fast. I've pretty much written the same. It's fast. It looked pretty good animations on the players. And it's probably maybe the best tennis game we've had. Maybe international tennis matched it, but I think it's a little bit different. I just found it incredibly hard to return the ball with any kind of reliability. And I played it for quite a while, and I did all the practicing. And I never, when I did manage it, I never felt like I was in proper control of where I was going to hit it, nor could I pull off any kind of direction to my shots. I was just fumbling around and getting it, whatever. The serving was okay. Like you said, that's nice and simple. I could never pull off the lob. It says to do a lob, pull backwards, or to do a smash, pull backwards. And I could never seem to get to do that either. I don't know whether it was just me or whether it was the game. I don't know. I think if you can get used to what the game wants you, when the game wants you to swing and hit it, then you might get into this. But I sometimes found it infuriating. I was like running across the court backwards, and I was like, turn round, I need you to do the other way. I need you to do a backhand, and he wouldn't turn round. And I was like, I'd press the fire thinking he'd flip it around, but I just do a forehand. I'm like, you're an idiot. And vice versa in single player. And then, like you said, in single player, I found the infallibility of the opponents just put me off trying to get into any further.
It's silly that it goes that way. It's such a sad thing to do. Yeah,
maybe this is good in two player, where you'd both be as crap as each other.
Yeah,
and I think that'd be better. But I think it's in single player, it's too unpredictable for you, and they're too infallible to be enjoyable. However, you draw a line 10 years down the line, or probably even less than that, probably 8 years, I think, in the arcade, and you get Virtua Tennis from Sega, which is literally almost this. And Virtua Tennis is still the best tennis game ever made, in my honest opinion. I don't think there's been loads of other ones and loads of other different ones, but Virtua Tennis on both arcade and on the Dreamcast is still the single best arcade tennis game ever created. And this is probably a primer for that, I thought. So, but there you go. It's not bad. I can see why it got the 82%. I imagine if you were playing the 82%, I reckon that multiplayer is carrying a lot of that score.
Yeah,
I imagine in the Zap offices, I bet they were probably having a good laugh in two player at this, and I bet it would be more enjoyable in that respect.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, I have to say, I thought it was pretty good. What I played, but like you say, the fun of these games is just always the same. If they make it, why do they do it? Why do they make the computer players insanely difficult? I mean, can you imagine if you got there at the top of that rankings, you'd never beat any of them, never in a million years.
Well, the thing was that in like similarly in Virtua Tennis, you worked your way up through the ranks. The last two opponents you played were Master and King. I think there was two sort of, but made up tennis players. Everything else was real, but there were these two at the end, and they were rock hard to beat. But we did manage to beat them after a while. I think me and my mate were playing it for ages on the Dreamcast. And we did manage to beat them, but you had to be almost like perfect for an entire set. And it's like, but they were like the bosses, the final end game. Really hard bosses. But you're saying, just in the early ranks and you're getting pounded. It's like, no fun. There we go. Pro Tennis Touch, pretty decent. There we go. Let's move on. Still got 2 games left. And we're still in a sporty mode.
We are.
Very sporty this week, isn't it? Very, very sporty. And this time we've got TV Sports Football.
We do.
TV Sports Sizzler, the Sizzler. 92%, yeah. From Cinemaware.
That surprised me even more.
Cinemaware. The mighty price of £20.
Ouch.
It's disc only.
I've just grazed Mini and that stings. Get the surgical spirit on it. No.
This is TV Sports Football. This is Cinemaware's last outing on the C64. This is it.
Okay, this is the final hurrah.
Aside, they did actually publish this is the last thing they developed, it seems that I could find, but they did publish the American version of Galdragon's Domain under the name Deathbringer in the US. God only knows, whatever that is. So this is a deport from the Amiga original. And I'm pretty happy to say that, Sloding aside, it's a pretty decent port of the old hand egg they play over on the other side of the pond. This is, it's Sloding, but The design here is by John Cutter and Larry Garner. That's the original Amiga version, I think. And the producer was Patrick Cook. The code is on the C64 with Craig Seastrom and Daniel Lucas. Graphics by Ken Hard. Oh, that's a good name.
It's for a different industry.
It's also like I think he's friends with Gary Lineker. Ken Hard. Ken confused. Ken soft.
I don't think I want to be around him when he's hard, to be honest. I don't want to know why or how. I'm just like, Gary, get out of the room, for God's sake, go.
Gary happy.
No wonder Ken's hard. Get out.
And the music is by Jim Simmons. So after some rather painful slowing and disc swapping, we eventually get to the menu screen. It takes ages to get to the menu screen. And here, like Pro Tennis Tour, these are just simple options, isn't it? It's very similar.
Yeah.
So we've got
good.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got an exhibition game, play in the league, although the options get a bit confused in a moment. We can play in the league, we can practice the various hand egg moves, we can look at the schedule of games and see the current standings in the various leagues, and that's kind of it. So in the exhibition mode, you can play 1 or 2 players. You can pick whatever teams you want from the 28 on offer. These are based on proper teams, but they're just known by the cities, so it's Los Angeles instead of the LA Raiders.
Yeah.
I think it's just Chicago instead of Chicago. What's the Chicago American
Bulls.
football? Is it the Chicago Bulls? Is that the American football team?
Bears. Chicago Bears.
Chicago Bears, yeah. The Bulls is the basketball
Baseball,
team,
I
isn't it?
think. Basketball, yeah. Bears, yeah.
So and so on and so on. So Washington instead of the Washington, whatever they're called now, I'm not sure.
Redskins.
Are they still
Well,
the
they're not
Redskins?
now, are they? No, they've changed the name, I think, now.
Yeah. So practice allows you to try out various offensive moves, but it's the league which is the main meat of the game here. So selecting this, it's a convoluted and confusing selection of options to actually get this up and running.
It is a bit.
So to start, you can start a new league or load up an old one. So if you select a new one, this allows you to pick a team. Then you can edit its players' names, their number. And there's quite an interesting way that they do this. You can assign them skill points for their speed, strength, hands, and agility. And you can assign a maximum of 6 to each one, but only one player can have all 6s, thus have 24 points. And so on downwards. One has 23, only one can have 22, only one can have 21. So you've got to think about what that player needs to be good at. So a wide receiver would want good speed and hands and probably low strength. So you could give him a low strength score, but give him high hands. A quarterback probably needs a good split across thing. A linebackers want good strength, but not particularly good hands, and so on and so forth. So it kind of works that way. So it's quite an interesting way of doing it that I thought. I quite like that.
Pretty cool.
And once you're happy with all that, you need to head back out. Then you save it. Then you go back to the starting menu and you select the league option and then continue season.
Bit weird the way it did all that.
No, I couldn't get this working properly now because I don't think I had a disk drive. There was already a league started in. This took me a while to work back, but that's a convoluted system. Why not just have, once you've selected your thing, right, continue, off you go, now start your game. Not have to go back out. It's weird. It's a really odd way to do it, but there you go. Whatever. Selecting continue season allows all the other games to be played. And this took me a while to work out as well. You've got to highlight the one you were playing. So all the games will have, I think, either C or H next to them. Most of them will have C, and that's a computer game. If it's got a H, you've actually got to go and click that one to state you actually want to play a game. If you just press continue, it won't do it automatically. It'll just keep showing you the results. I was like, what's going on? The menu system in this, the UI, needed some work. It's not particularly user friendly. It's like, well, of course I want to play the game. Like, I don't get it. Anyway, but that's what you have to do. Then there's more slowing happening, some more disc swapping for added highlights. As the game gets going, we get a couple of really nice brief intro sequences. We get like a pan across the field. We get some teams playing and a sponsor for the game. And then we get like a sponsor which got like quite a humorous like logo or something, or sort of a motto or something like that. And that's really nice. And I think that's taken from the Amiga version as well. There's more loading. Then we get a presenter, like, a guy sat in the studio tells us all about the game coming up. That's nice as well. Very cinemaware. It's got that cinemaware polish and all those graphics and everything and all that kind of stuff and that presentation. It's all there. Just takes a lot of time to get through. You can listen to them if you want, or you press fire to get through, and then you get through and there's more loading. Then we have the coin toss. So we see a real big close with the coin toss. It's impossible to see when it lands, whether it's heads or tails. I could never make it out. But whoever wins that, you get to choose whether they will kick or receive the kickoff. And then we are, after more loading and disk swapping, underway. There's a lot of loading and disk swapping to get. There's only 3 sides of a disk. I don't know why this couldn't be organised a bit better on the disks. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Anyway, once the kick's been taken and returned, we get to the main meat of the game. So before the American football can be taken. Sorry, what I've written here. Whether we are offense or defense, we need to choose our play. So basically, we get a menu screen first of all before we get to anything. And you get a series. So if you're offense or defense, it doesn't really matter. You've got the same thing to do. You've got 4 different types of play you can pick, and you essentially just push in a diagonal direction on the joystick to select which one you want. So, and then you get another sub menu of which version of that you want to play. So how you want your plays to move. So if you're wanting to pass with the shotgun play, you select that, and then you'll get sort of 4 versions of the shotgun, and you pick which one of those you want to play. That's it. Then we head to the field to see what happens, and then we're on to the game. The view here is raised pretty much, so we're slightly up and behind the defense or the attackers, depending on which one you're on. So we're behind the attacking side. Sorry, we're attackers, and there are a lot of players on the pitch. There's 20 in all, and the pitch is as wide as the screen. And that may seem a bit cramped, but it's not really. I didn't think it was that cramped. I thought it was all right. So there's only vertical scrolling going on here. There's no scrolling left or right. It's just all right. So if you're attacking, so you're facing up the screen, you're attacking. Then once the play starts, so you'll get a couple of huts, and then you can. There's a couple of ways you can actually start the play. You can pull back on the joystick to take the ball as the quarterback, and then you've got complete control of the quarterback. You run where you want, choose to throw it where you want, do what you want with it, pass it off, everything like that. Alternatively, you can press fire, and then essentially what happens then is the play plays out automatically. You can just take a step back, take your hands off the joystick, and let it play. This is quite an interesting way to do this, I thought, because while that's actually playing out, any movement you make on the joystick allows you to take control of the player who presently has the ball, or is, if it's the wide receiver running towards the ball. So you might want to let the game, if you've done a running play, you're thinking, I'll just, let it go, press fire, let him hike the ball off, press the ball thing, and then as he's running, you're like thinking, I'm going to take play of it. You start the joystick and you're in control then. This is really quite a really good system to actually do it, I think. So you kind of part management, part play. Good. Alternative, like I said, you might want to do it all yourself. It's up to you. If you want to pass the ball. So here, the controls are quite good as well. You basically, as the quarterback, you stop running. This will let your quarterback kind of assumes the throwing pose, and here you can turn him left or right to aim. So this depends where you want to throw it, and then you hold down fire to release the ball. He'll throw it straight away, and that I liked, because so many times you'll sort of build up a power bar or something, and you wait and you'll get sacked. But not here. If we throw straight away. And the way this works is that the longer you hold it, there's a small X appears in the direction you're facing that will move away from you. The longer you hold down, is basically the more power you put on the thing. So you keep it held down until you can, you're going over your wide receiver, and then you let go and the ball will kind of drop there. That's how far you're throwing it. Again, I think this is a really good system because it's instant, and it took me a little while to get changed because I kept letting go of the fire button when I first did it, sort of thing. So I was just going, it's like, this quarterback's
something
rubbish.
wrong with that quarterback.
It's like, oh no, I'm going to hold it down. Right, I get it. Once I got it, I thought this was really quite good. I liked it. So this way you can aim at the players off the top of the screen in order for them to catch the ball and things like that. Like I said, it feels odd at first. You get used to the controls. I thought it was quite easy, and it's responsive to pull off some decent plays. If you're on the defense, then you're facing down the screen. You can swap between the 4 defensive backs by tapping the fire button. The one you're in control of will be flashing, and again, you can let it all happen automatically. Just don't touch the joystick, and they'll just run off and they'll do the play you've sort of picked for them. But you can take control of any of them, the one you're flashing at any time. The rest is hand egg. It's American football. A team gets 4 downs to move the ball 10 yards forwards. If they do, they get to do it all over again. You can call punts and field goals. And those are seen field goals are seen in a nice 3D view as you're facing the thing, some nice graphics, everything like that. It's got a really good look to this and a really responsive and a good feel to this. It all feels really well put together. I think maybe that's because it's come from the Amiga down, but they've managed to encapsulate all that Amiga stuff into this. This is kind of what we saw with Defender of the Crown and those good ports. They've pulled everything down and they've made it work on the C64. You can really, like I said, you can just let the whole thing be automated as well. Because even if you don't call a play within 15 seconds, the computer does it for you. And then what it tries to do as well, if you've called a few plays, it tries to emulate the style of play you've been going for. And it also speeds up as well. So it'll just do it 5 seconds. So you can just go, let it go. Right, I'm just going to let it play out and see what happens, which is interesting. You can press fire on the selection screen as well for a timeout, which stops the clock and gives you some time to breathe and select a play. And as the weeks roll by, the league unfolds, you progress to the playoffs, the Super Bowl. I think that's all in here. I didn't get that far. I believe, there's 6 leagues, there's 28 teams.
All the leagues.
Yeah, all of them's there. It's all there. The presentation on this is excellent and does a really good job of emulating, like I said, what was on the Amiga. There's just some small exceptions, cheerleads and things like that are not there, but I think most of the integral parts are all here. The intros are nice. There's a small bit of music. It's kind of what you expect from these American-style games. The in-game graphics are decent. It all moves at a decent speed, so no slow down, even with all 20 sprites on the screen. So there's obviously some good multiplexing going on in this as well. And really nice, obviously code base underneath all this. The only thing that really mars this is the loading and the disk swapping, because there's a lot. It loads in between each play as well. It just really slows down proceedings. And not to mention the excessive disk swapping between games and intros and the like. It's like, oh, God's sake. The actual playing of American football, though, works very well. It's probably the best on the machine, I think. I think this and Fourth and Inches are close between them, but I think this does play a better game. I think it's a decent game. If you can stomach the wait in, there's a really very good game of American football here. And it's got all the leagues and everything for you to play through, which I think is and you can pick any team you want. But, that's slowly, it's only something you can judge, I guess. Now in the modern time, you just stick warp mode on and you get through most of it quite quickly. It got 92%. I can see why. There's a lot of depth here. The game plays well. And this is really impressive for the C64. Another really impressive game we're seeing this week. I just wished it loaded faster. But if you can stomach that, I think you've got the best American football game on the system here. What about you?
It's a good game, this. I remember it from the Amiga, actually. And I didn't remember the Amiga one for good reasons, but not because of the game. Like the C64 version, there were so many bad cracks of this game, which is, I think, maybe what's hampering the loading on the cracks that we're playing, because it was a very difficult game to crack and get right. In fact, if you look through all the various cracks on CSDB, you'll see a lot of them didn't work. There was a bug in the game, a game-breaking bug that was in the game. Whether that was there originally or not, I don't know. But in one instance, one of the cracking groups claimed to have fixed it, and then another one said, no, you didn't, we've fixed that. And there was clearly some kind of issue with the loader at some point. And now who created that issue, I don't know.
A cracked hand egg.
Yeah, well, the problem is the Amiga one had a similar problem in that, but I think the problem I had with the Amiga one was that I never had a fully working version. I always had one disc that was great and the other one that wasn't so much. And the loading times are hampered on the C64 by the 1541 stranglehold on the load speed, because that's what holds the speed back, because of the weird restrictions that Commodore placed on the 1541. You would probably actually be able to load this quicker off tape if they use the right kind of loader. You would. It's weird, but you probably would, because of the way the data set worked. But anyway, that's by the by. So I really liked what I played of this. It was just completely frustrated by the endless swapping of the disc and having to faff about. On real hardware, can you imagine what a nightmare that would be? Because you've got to take the disc out, put another one in, take that one out, put another one in, flip it around, put it in. And I was doing it quite a lot and it seemed to be loading it in all sorts of odd little bits. And that really hampered it, because there was quite a lot of loading between that. When you got to the game, the graphics were great. They do vary a little bit in quality, but generally they're good. But they're all in service to the game. And when you get to the actual game itself, after all the options and things, and all the slowed in, the actual game is great. The way you can control it or not, the way you can step in or out, the way that the plays work and everything else, it's by far one of the most accomplished American football games on the C64 by miles. I had a really enjoyable time with it, but I got fed up of having to swap the disc out every 2 minutes. And that weird way that you have to get it started by putting a disc in and disc out, it was like the bloody Okie Dokie. Put the disc in, put the disc 2 out, in, out, in, out. I was like, goodness, look, just make a decision. And even when I tried to find a more compounded version, because there's a 1581 version you can get from CSDB, the 1581 is the 3.5-inch disk drive that came out for the C64, so it's probably got a little bit more storage on it. So I thought maybe that'd be quicker. No, it wasn't. It was just the same problem. It was, in fact, probably slower. So I like what I played. I like the way you controlled the defense and chose the defensive schemes. I like the way you could step and watch the plays. The actual physical view of the American football game is genuinely brilliant on this. It's really, really good. I think it's probably better than Fourth and Inches.
Yeah.
It looks and moves, and the way that they perform, The way that you can get, you can sort of sit there and you can move your positions of your players just before the snap. And there's loads of little touches to this that are really nicely done. I think this is a really great game. I think it is just hamstrung by its loading, but that's apparently a Cinemaware problem. If you dive into it, their loaders have always been a problem. Defender of the Crown on C64 was crucified for its loader to the point when the Kraken groups put their own disc loader on it, which is the one that we played.
Yeah.
So that was the Kraken group's disc loader that they put in there because the Cinema one was so junk. And I think I read somewhere that perhaps it might be even on Lemon, but I read it somewhere that because the American audience that this is for were so used to disk drives because they had them principally from day one.
Yeah.
That the loading was just how they loaded. It would have been no bother for them. It wouldn't have bothered them. But for us, we're used to tapes, and the tapes, as I said, actually can load faster than disk. If it sounds as crazy as that sounds, they can on C64. And so we were used to a very different style of loading. And I think this kind of load a bit, wait a bit, load a bit, wait a bit, we just weren't used to it, and never were we ever going to be. So I really liked it. I just hated the loader, but that didn't stop me from enjoying the game when I got to it. So good. It's good. 92%, I think is right. Yeah, probably about right.
Yeah, there we go. Another good one. This half has picked up. That's 3 out of 3.
So far, yeah, that's not bad.
That's not bad, is it? We've still got one to go. Will that trend continue? Let us find out. It's the last game of the week, Graham. It's time for you to be Hammerfist.
Hammerfist. Hammerfist. 90% Sizzler. £9.99. This is on tape and disc, I believe. Now, check this out. This is published by Activision. Copyright was Vivid Image. Producer, Jonathan Dean. He's been around a bit, hasn't he?
He's seen a thing or two.
He's seen a thing. Now, check this out. Coder, John Twiddy.
Oof.
Graphics, Hugh Riley.
Oof.
Title screen, Paul Doherty.
Oof.
Musician, Wally Beban.
That's a
Boom,
team.
shakalak. That is a team, innit? My gosh.
Have I never heard of this?
Same. Never really come across it at all. So the blurb then. I mean, I won't go read you all the blurb. There's 2 characters in this game. There's one called, I think it's Metalisa, and the other one is Hammerfist. And there's a little description of what they are and blah, blah, blah. I won't go into that. I'll put the instructions in the show notes so you can read that. But I'll read the gameplay. And it says, the year is 2115 AD. Holograms are indistinguishable from humans. People are selected for their special skills and then transformed into holograms to commit murder, political crimes, or whatever their master Centro Holographics orders them to do. In between missions, the holograms are stored in personality computers or mind prisons. However, the computer storing 2 of the most powerful holograms ever created, Hammerfist and Metal Isis, has malfunctioned, sending the 2 deadly assassins on one final mission to destroy Centro Holographics. You control Hammerfist and Metal Isis on their mission. You must smash the security systems to gain access to later levels, kill the technicians and droids who try to stop you, and collect the energy and weapon energy fizzles which they leave behind. Also, plug into the recharge points to top up on energy in order so you might defeat the Octosquab, the giant ant and multitude of aliens, both holographic and solid, which the Master will send out to stop you. Can you beat the Octosquab? I hope you can.
I don't know, maybe.
You can change between the 2 main characters when you play this game. So you actually play as 2 characters. You can be Hammerfist at certain points. You can be Metallicis at certain points. It's up to you. You can choose about that. And I'll come into sort of the reasons why you might want to change at certain points in a moment. So, okay. Interesting game, this. First thing I'll say about this, I have never headbutted so many screens in one game in my life. This is a game where you're headbutting a lot of things.
Yeah.
This is a game of headbutts.
Should be called Hammerhead.
Game. It should be Hammerhead. This is a bit of an odd game, isn't it? This, all said and done. But with an impressive bunch behind it, to say the least. Twiddy, Last Ninja 1 and 2, Tausetti.
Yeah.
Hugh Riley, Last Ninja 1 and 2, Tusker. Paul Doherty, he did the title screens for IK+, Drewy 2 and a bunch of others. Wally Beban, he did Scuba Kids, Dark Side, Tetris Music. That's a team. That's quite a team.
Yeah.
Game starts pretty well too. Nicely drawn loading screen. Some nice punchy title screen music. It's okay. I wouldn't say it was Wally Beban's finest tune, but it's all right. Suits kind of what's going on. Mm-hmm. You've got a nice sort of title landing screen, eager to get you into it. We've kind of seen that thing before. Nothing too fancy. Title of the game, few options, a few credits rolling up, get things going, press the fire button, and you be off. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty cool. You control 2 characters in this game. You've got Hammerfist and Metal Isis. You switch between them by pressing, I want to say down, I think, on joystick. I can't remember. I'll look at it.
It's up, I think.
Up or down, I can't remember. But anyway, and just to describe, so when you start the game, you'll start in a quite an interesting sort of environment. Now, I'll tell you what, the background graphics in this game are great. Really colourful, really interesting to look at, really vibrant. It takes up principally most all the screen. There's a little UI at the top. Maybe it's about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 characters in height, C64 characters, maybe a bit less than that. It's got the energy indications for Metal Isis and for Hammerfist. And then there's like a score chart and a kind of a warning system in the middle that tells you a few things as you go through the game. The entire bottom half of the game, all of the rest of the screen, it's all of the game graphics in the background and you as the sprites. Mm-hmm. When you appear, I think you're about 2 sprites high. You are a high-res overlay sprite, I think it's safe to say. Quite nicely defined graphics. The background graphics look nice, nicely shaded and realized. The idea here is that you've got to kind of, I guess, punch and smash your way through the various security things in the screen to unlock the door to get to the next screen to do more of that. Mm-hmm. All the while you'll be attacked by walking droids, flying androids, things that come in and out of the screen as you shoot them. Because the Hammerfist, you can shoot these fireballs to the right and left and up. So you've got that kind of directional fire. And you can also sort of do I guess it's like an ankle grab maneuver, kind of a punch the toes, it looks like he literally punches their toes, which probably would really hurt, I imagine.
It would.
So you can sort of fight your way. So Hammerfist's strengths are that he's more of the fighty one. He's a bit stronger as well, so he can fight, and you would use him to sort of defeat the principal part of the enemies. And he can also shoot fireball type things, which means that you can target some of the security things that are at different screen heights to you, I guess. Because when you first start, there's like 3 tube things that you appear out of one of. And then the top of those is the security light type things. Like, I don't know what you call them, but you've got to shoot them out, and you've got to go and headbutt a screen and do some stuff like that. And so you'd use Hammerfist to shoot those. If you do switch to Metal Isis, I don't know, nice name really. Still don't know how you do it.
The other character.
I'm going to call her Metallicis. I think Metallicis.
There you go,
When you switch to Metallicis, she is more of a sort of athletic sort of acrobat. So she'll kind of flick, flack, and jump around and dance about. Now, the reason you would use her is probably comes more for in screen 2. Because once you've finished on this first screen, you'll walk through the door on the right-hand side. It will open because it's locked up to this point. It'll open. When you walk through, the little face at the top will say security alert, the door is unlocked. You can walk through and then you're potentially on the next screen of the level. And then you kind of got to do a similar kind of thing, only this time there's multiple levels. And you think, how am I going to get up there? Because while the Hammerfist I don't think he can jump at all, can he? He can only walk about. So you need to switch to Metallicis so that she can jump around, flick, flack around. She can kick and flick, flack. So she just kind of weaponize her athletics.
Yeah, think Pris in Blade Runner.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So you've got kind of a Pris kind of character in Blade Runner. So you'll use her to jump up on the high levels and smash out some of the security protocols that you need to remove in order to get the door open or get to the next bit. In that case, actually, you have to go to like a little door in the middle and then sort of walk through it. So the doors aren't always just on the left or right of the screen. Sometimes you have to sort of go in and come through and come back on yourself. It's quite nice like that. All the while, there's screens all over the place, which you've got to headbutt. And there's also charge points, which you can use to recharge your energy. So you headbutt those as well. In fact, you pretty much, if you're not smashing it, you're headbutting it in this game. Mm-hmm. Which is fair enough. That's how it works. And so each screen, the idea of it is to bust the security terminals or the security blockers, headbutt the screens and get through to the next screen. All the while, the enemies are attacking you, and they will drop various different color-coded blobs and letter codes, which will give you various different kinds of, let's say the upgrades, I suppose are the upgrades. They're called what they call energy fizzles. And they kind of recharge your weapons and recharge things and stuff like that. They just kind of give you a little boosts. And so you could sort of utilize those. There are extra weapons in this, I think. I don't know if they're on, I couldn't remember if they're on this. I think they're on this C64 version, because you can there's a weapon select, which you can press, change it to have no weapon selected, or your piston fists. Sounds very painful, doesn't it?
No one wants that.
Or you can have your laser fist. I don't know if everyone wants to mess with laser. So you've got different kind of punching abilities and things like that. So long and the short of this game is that you'll appear in each one of these really nicely rendered background screens. And you're at some stage, you're on your way to fight this kind of giant boss baddie. And in each of these screens, you have to sort of bash your way through the security screens and headbutt the screens and everything to get to the next screen. And that's kind of how it works. And you have to switch between 2 characters because no one character has all of the power you need to be able to do it. So quite straightforward game logic in its own way. And like I said, the characters have their own strengths. Hammerfist is more Hagger from that kind of Hagger mentality. Yeah. From Streets of not Streets of Rage, but
Final Fight.
I couldn't think of the game. And she's more kind of the, like you said, Pris. Okay, it is what it is. As you progress through, the screens actually get more and more colourful and more interesting to look at. So there's some really nice screens later on in the game. I found as you sort of gradually end up underwater at a certain point. So you gradually end up in sort of an underwater realm. I don't quite know how you or why you end up there. But there's some really impressive big monsters in some of this. I mean, what's his name? Hugh Riley's really pushing the boat out on some of these graphics for this game. They're really good and really impressive. I mean, at one point you're fighting this giant sea monster thing, which is firing these giant laser things at you. It takes up a good half of the screen, even with all of its animated tentacles and things. It's pretty damn good, actually. But you're under constant attack all the way through the game, which does drain you a bit in this. It's a bit because it's constant. Now, eventually end up in the underwater level, which is level 3, after you've gone through level 2. And again, you progress through these by going through a screen, sorting it out, go to the next one, sort it out, go to the next one. And that's kind of how the game works. And some of the screens are slightly bigger, but that's how the game works. But while you get to level 3, you're kind of underwater at that point. But there's fish swimming about and squid, but you're just walking. So I don't quite know how that works. It feels a bit weird in that level because there's fish swimming. Clearly you're underwater. There's fish swimming about. You're in like an underwater cave. The graphics are amazing to look at, but it feels a bit weird. And then when you get to level 4, and if you're not bored by this point, because I'll come back to the boredom factor, you find yourself suddenly you're fighting tanks and robots and things like that, but the scaling's gone off the chart weird. I have to say, when you get to level 4, by that point, it feels like the graphics at the beginning of that level are a bit of an afterthought. It's like they're not as good as all the other levels when you first start level 4. It does get better, and as you progress through level 4 and you get towards the end, the graphics get amazing. Towards the end of this game, the graphics are genuinely some of the best you're going to see in the 64. They're really good. But there's some, every now and again, it's just a bit shonky and a bit naff and not quite drawn properly. And I wondered if it was maybe the crack was broken or something like that, because one of the levels, it appeared like you were stood next to what looked like a building, and the building was the size of you. And you're like, hang on a minute, am I a giant or something? and then I found myself punching a tank. I'm like, hang on a minute, what's happened to the scaling of everything here? What's going on? So it sort of went off the chart crazy for a little bit. So, and this game doesn't give you a lot of progression information. Yes, as you're going through the screens, you're not really got any indication of how far you're getting, really. You just kind of keep on trucking until you get to the big monster thing. And then it'll say, right, you ended the level, well done. And then when it loads in again, because each level's a load, it loads the next one in, but it just kind of starts the game again. So it's like, it sort of goes back to the title screen with credits, and then you press fire and you're actually in the next level. It's a bit weird. So it almost feels like the game stops and starts a little bit, which is, I don't know, it just felt like it broke the flow a bit for me. But this is a really nice game to look at. But it does fall foul a little bit because of some really silly design choices that they made. Number 1, endless spawning enemies. Now, in this game, it makes progression frustrating and needlessly annoying. It didn't need to have that in this. In fact, nope. I think it would have benefited from just not having that, because they constantly spawn all the time, the enemies in this. So you're constantly fighting all the time, punching and shooting, which means even trying to get to one of the security doors in the same screen run where you might have been only 10 sprites ago, you turn around. By that time you've turned around and you start to walk back, you'll be inundated with another robot or another flying thing or another thing. And it's constant all the time. Now, it's bad enough when you're Hammerfist to try and progress through the actual level to get to places. But when you're Metallicist, because if she's jumping around, she can be halted mid-jump and it can just stop you in your tracks and it can be really annoying to try and get to where you want to be. And also, flick-flacking onto the levels and stuff is not an accurate experience.
No.
So you'll find yourself flick-flacking and flying around and not quite landing where you want to be and falling off, and it just makes it needlessly annoying, which is my key problem with this, number 1. My second problem with this is that the fighting and exploration is a very one-note experience. Even with the little mini upgrades, it's just the same thing constantly. Now, I get that the graphics are very pretty and they get varied and quite interesting to look at, and that is good, but it's not enough. This game just lacks any variety. After you've got over that first screen, the game methodology doesn't change. It's punch, smash, flick, flack, smash, punch, next level, punch, smash, flick, flack, punch, smash, next level. And it's that over and over. And even when you get to the bosses, such as they are, it's the same thing. I mean, the big bosses, you have to just be Hammerfist and just shoot them. Because you can't flick, flack into them. It doesn't work. You just die really quickly. So it's sort of a little bit, I don't know, it's limiting. I don't know if I think this is only a one-player game as well. So I don't think you can be both people at the same time. So the audio was okay. In this, it's not bad. The graphics and the design of the game, really nice in terms of the way it sort of looks and everything else and the way it plays. It's easily at the top end of the C64 graphic hierarchy for its backgrounds, because some of them are amazing to look at. And there's a lot of them too. The levels aren't small. They've got a lot to go at. But I think they feel bigger because you're just on the screens for quite a long time, endlessly fighting enemies. And it just feels like that's how they padded the game out. So the game is probably about 10 screens long, but it takes about 2 years to get through them because you're just constantly on the same screen forever. The controls are a little weak when you move around. It feels a bit laboured here and there. Things lack the impact they should have. The flick-flacking feels a bit weird. Is it a fight move? Is it an escape move? It's a bit of a hybrid and it doesn't quite work. You don't quite land where you want to. It feels like she flies across the screen sometimes, wildly. And you think, well, if she was going to do a backflip, it should really be like an IK plus type backflip. That would work better in this. So you could just use it as a sort of a getaway maybe just jumping up would have been a preference to sort of leaping about like you do. She's more Chitara than she should be, I think, in this.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I'd never heard of this game before, and I have to admit I had high expectations when I saw who developed it in terms of their names. And on the whole, I wasn't disappointed by the way it looked and their input. This is well put together. It just feels like the game design took a back seat, and that facilitated some weaker choices about how you could stretch the gameplay across the 4 levels by just filling it full of enemies, which is a bit of an old dirty trick in it. A bit of variety in there I think a bit more tonal variety, a little bit less on the screen, a little bit more exploration, and maybe I have to pick up some stuff and move things around and maybe search some of those things in more of a Mission Impossibles type way or something like that. Maybe just a little bit more adventure game in there, a bit more thought than just punching and smashing stuff and headbutting stuff. I think if I'd have thought about that more, a bit more adventure, a bit less knucklebusters, and this could have been a great classic on the C64. But it looked nice, and it's certainly a step above the others in terms of graphics for 1990. It's a good step in the right direction in terms of the way this looks. I'm liking this. I'm liking Turrican. I'm liking the direction that those games have taken the graphics and the ideas of the C64, what its capabilities are. But they just keep making silly missteps, pointless missteps. And the one here, well, how many screens of punching and headbutting are you going to go through before you think, I've just kind of fed up with this? So Hammerfist, I'd never heard of it before. I don't know, 90%. Maybe it's a little bit high. Maybe it should have been in the 80s, but it's quite nice looking all the same. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I when this started, I got massive V vibes from it.
Yeah, as the kind of a stinky V vibe, doesn't it?
Stuck in a room with absolutely no feedback on what to do.
Yes.
Because it's not clear,
actually,
and it wasn't clear that I had to, just a constant array of spawning enemies, because I never happened to actually shoot one of the things above the I was like...
There's nothing given away in the instructions, is there?
What am I supposed to do here? I had to, the screen was so busy with things that I needed to interact with were lost amongst everything else. So it looks good, but there's no sort of visual sort of thing. Destroy these. You need to destroy these. So I actually had to chuck on YouTube and go, what the hell am I supposed to do? And I was like, right, got to blow them up. Right, okay, that gets me to screen 2. And then screen 2, I was like, how the hell do I get up there?
Ages to figure that out.
How the hell do I get up there? And it's a really awkward flick flack to onto the desk, and then it just have to be at the right thing so that her feet land to flick forward. It's like, oh, God's sake, this is way more tricky than it should be. Just give me a jump. So, yeah, I think you're right. It looks great. There's really nice animations, sounds good. But in terms of navigating this game, I found it a real pain. And I didn't like the controls either. I've kept finding myself, having to press space to face into the screen was stupid.
Yeah. Why don't you push up?
Exactly.
Make space change.
Exactly. It's exactly what I've written. Much better would have been up to face into the screen and space to switch characters, because you probably have to do one far more than you do the other. So that's just a normal way of things, isn't it? You push up. All these games where there's sort of doors in the background or something like that, you push up to sort of face them and go in. Don't know why they've tried to make it space. It don't really work. So yeah, and having to press space, and then you don't quite face it, so you have to sort of walk up slightly and then headbutt it. Yeah,
it's weird.
And that, whilst you're being that one on the second screen on the top bit where you hammer fist and you have to walk, but there's a constantly spawning robot to your left and a constantly spawning thing flying in from the right, and it's just trying to press space, walk up to it and headbutt it. I was just constantly getting. I was like, God's sake.
Yep.
So I found this far more frustrating than it needed to be. And then Then when you do that and you drop down, walking into that door, I couldn't do it at first. It just wouldn't let me walk into it. So I was like, oh, maybe that's
be exactly right.
Maybe that's not where I'm supposed to go. Went back to YouTube, watched, went, oh, that is where I'm supposed to go. So I had figured out the game's just not letting me do it. Right, okay. Pain in the ass. I see what they're going for with this. The visuals and stuff, the code and the music, they're all great. Everything runs smoothly and looks nice and everything like that. But the lack of player direction and feedback, and we've said this about so many games, in that players need feedback. You need feedback to know you're doing something right. They could have opened that door. When you headbutted that screen, open that door. That's all you got to do. And then you're like, oh, I know my action there triggered that door. That's where I've got to go. But it doesn't. It's a pain in the ass. So I found this a really random chore to play. I soon became very frustrated with this and turned it off. Yeah,
it felt like a System 3 game that never was this.
I don't know what it is. I mean, it's a weird one, isn't it?
Well, System 3 games have that problem, don't they? They don't give a lot away.
Yeah.
And I think this struck me as very similar to the way Last Ninja had that problem, and where Tusker had the same problem, and other System 3 Myth had the same problem.
And Vendetta and stuff like that.
Vendetta, yeah. They just don't always have the most obvious logical things in front of you to give you, like you said, open the door so you can see it. And there was other games, and the star thing flashed for a second, disappeared. It's like, just what is it with you guys? Give us some more info.
It just all those things in the first screen. They've got the 3 bits at the top. Have them glow or something, or do something.
Or say the text, the door is open, or something like that.
Yeah, or say that I've got to destroy them. Have something somewhere that points here to destroy.
Yeah,
because there's no connection between those 3 things powering those 3 hover tubes to open the door.
It's those 2 little tiny things on the wall that you have to headbutt in the second screen. And if you didn't do them, you'd never know that they were there.
No, exactly. That's what I mean. All the fancy graphics and smart stuff going on all over the place and everything else can't replace player feedback, and that's where this game falls down. So for me, this was a bit of a miss. When I put it on, and I was like, "Ooh, this looks really nice.
It looks amazing, but
doesn't. Yeah, I found it, like we said, with all those other games, and it's maybe maybe it was a thingy game, maybe it was a System 3 game or something like that, because didn't Stanley Shembry have to take over from John Twitty and he took over with Last Ninja 3, and he sort of replaced him as the coder. Maybe he took this with him, and maybe they weren't happy with it. I don't know. And it's got that. I don't know, but it's not. I think it's not terrible. It's just, like you said, some misguided design choices let it down. Hammerfist, weird title, weird game. There you go. So that's it. That's our games this week. Not a terrible lot. I mean, I'd say 4 pretty good games, 1 decent enough, and 2 eggs.
Yeah. Actually, there's some half reasonable stuff there.
That's not a bad ratio for a week. That's all right.
No.
The Commodore 64, the OG 8-bit G-Hero, the hero, Zapped to the past. Make way for episode 150, 80 and G. Playing through the games we know. Also, we don't have to, yo.
Now, that's it. So normally we'd sort of have a bit of a chat, but because this is episode 150, and because we've done 5 years of magazines now, we did 5 years of magazines last week. We covered 5 years. We actually reached out to our patrons and to get their views. What do they think? This journey we've been on is making these going through this sort of thing. And we asked for some of them to give us just their thoughts on like what they thought of stuff and things like that. And they dutifully responded. And we got those responses now, and these are humbling to say the least. I think some of these, but I think so. We're gonna take some time. We're gonna read these out. So hopefully, you might feel the same. You can contact us and let us what you know. Contact us Facebook, Twitter, email us, whatever you want, to let us know how you felt. Like, we've covered 5 years worth of magazine.
5 years is a long time.
So 5 years worth of games, over 1,000 games we've gone through. So we've got some what we call testimonials, I guess. And we'll read these out. Graham, I mean, do you want to take the first one, Graham?
Yeah, sure. Yep. I'll do that.
So you take the first one.
So 150 episodes ago, 2 brave retro idiots set forth with a show. They've waggled their joysticks, and until the last, they plays lots of games for Zapped to the past. They played lots of dog eggs for Zapped to the past.
Yeah, and we owe it to these guys. I mean, they've taken the time to write these. Thank you very much for doing that. And thank you to all of our patrons, whether they participated in this, but they always participate in our Discord. And there's a very active community of these people on there, which I love. It's one of my favourite places to be. And we've, these guys have listened to, the best part of 300 plus, maybe 400 hours of us talking. So that's a lot, isn't it? So we owe it to them to talk at them some more, I feel. Let's talk at them some more.
Yeah.
So this is from Photon Storm, our amazing patron Photon Storm. And they state, I found Zapped to the Past around episode 40 and quickly went back to the start, listening to several episodes a week while I caught up. Since then, I have listened to every single one, and I still love it. Thank you for that. I originally came for the retro, but I stayed for the banter. I love that. And outright belly laughs when you rightly rip some games to pieces. My life is now peppered with warbly sax, assembler jokes, terrible chroma key, simply bread, Dusty Moore, pull down to change weapon, and oh, so much gravy. And I feel richer and happier because of it, despite having never owned a Commodore 64. Thank you for being the audio highlight of my week and for playing the game so we don't have to, because it's magnificent to hear your reactions when you do. How humbling is that? Amazing.
That's just cool,
Thank you, Photon Storm. So cool.
Clyde Radcliffe, another one of our amazing patrons, he says, I got a hand-me-down C64 from my uncle around the time Zapped started covering Amiga games. Before then, my only computer experience was occasionally getting to play with my dad's BBC Micro that was hooked up to all his ham radio kit. Kind of crazy. Wow. And browsing through his incredibly dry magazines for the Beeb that were full of typing listings for bubble sort routines or interfacing with the RS-23 whatever port. The first issue of Zap I bought blew my socks off because it was all about having fun with computers, and the writing style really appealed to a 10-year-old me. I stopped buying comics so I could spend my pocket money on Zap instead. I discovered the podcast after it got a shout out somewhere else, Retro Gamer or the Retro Hour podcast, but can't remember. And went back to listen to each episode from the start, and I'm still catching up. I've also downloaded PDFs of all the Zap issues, and I've been reading them in my spare time, discovering more crapverts than you guys could ever cover. Don't know, we can cover quite a lot.
We've covered quite a few, yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Clyde. Amazing stuff.
Amazing, yeah, absolutely. Ham radio. God, my dad was never that excited about, he liked technology, but he never had radio kit and RS-232s, and he wouldn't have understood what a BBC Model B even meant.
No, probably not.
Crazy. Okay, so the next Patreon that's gifted us with their words is Etienne. And they have written, at my previous job, I used to go on lunch break walks listening to the podcast. It was always awkward when someone walked towards me while I had to smile because of some funny remark on the podcast. I can't believe the podcast has been running for such a long time. It feels much shorter, might do to you. It has been a very nostalgic journey, bringing back memories of the games we played, what music we listened to, I guess, and the movies we watched. Yeah, absolutely. Can't agree more. Glad you're enjoying it, Etienne. I really am glad. And he's a very active participant now. Well, they all are, but he's a very active participant in the Patreon.
It is. And also, I like the fact as well, sort of picking out on the movies and the music we talk about.
Yes,
it's always an integral part to each episode, I think, and one of the
I think so. It's the palette cleanser, as we've called it, wasn't it, when we originally sort of put that in?
Yeah, the thing in the middle. Mark Fletcher, another awesome patron, says, somewhere on a C64 Facebook thread mentioned there was this new podcast called Zapped to the Past. Oh, back when we were new. And I thought I'd give it a listen. I'm glad I did. Like a number of listeners, I got into retro gaming as a cheap and cheerful midlife crisis. It's cheaper than a new car anyway. The C64 Maxi had come out, and I was rediscovering some such old gems as Leaderboard, Paradroid, and the Game series. Zapped to the Past very quickly became my favourite podcast. A sort of player two of the games I was getting back into for the first time in decades. Whilst I still mostly play the games I knew and loved, one of the highlights, for me anyway, probably less so for you, has been listening to you talk in less than favourable terms about the utter shite that I avoided back in the day. I knew the bread bin was violated by some utter bobbins, but your podcast has revealed the sheer tidal wave of excrement that made it to the C64. I appreciate you play them so we don't have to. For this service, I thank you. Zapped to the Past was the first podcast I joined on Patreon. Well, that's kind of cool and ace, isn't it?
Very cool.
Thank you very much. And I'm kind of proud to be read out each month and to be part of this great community. I heartily congratulate you chaps for making it to episode 150. Onwards.
Excellent. Gotta love that.
Thank you, Mark.
And we're glad we're helping you through any kind of crisis, whether it's midlife, wherever you may be.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that journey. Yep. Love that.
I don't, and actually going by some of those prices I've seen in retro stuff on eBay, I don't think it is cheaper than a car.
No, absolutely. But I do admire the fact that they use the phrase tidal wave of excrement. I'm going to use that in one of our reviews. I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's so true. It's unbelievably true. So our next patron is David Hearn Writer. David Hearn has been with us for a long while, hasn't he?
He has.
Because he was one of our original sponsors. Remember doing the adverts for his books, his amazing books. Yeah. He was, and he's still, the books are all still at davidhearnwriter.com. And he was kind enough to give us a copy, and I've actually bought a couple of copies since. And they are great reads, so I'm not just plugging it for the sake of it, but davidhearnwriter.com is really good stuff. Anyway, that said, this is what he wrote about us. I hope it's nice for all that. Well done on 150 and wading through the ocean of sludge to find those rare gems. The revisited reviews have rekindled some of my favourite gaming memories and showed me just how subjective the love or loathing of Lave to Dizzo runs can be. So getting that on a t-shirt. I've enjoyed Adrian's well-considered critique. Well-considered, Adrian. That's nice.
I know, isn't it?
The amusement and yearning for better game design and Graham's often brutal assessments whilst providing technical insights into how the programmers could have used the C64 hardware better.
What's the
That's a good
register,
summary, I
Graham?
think.
What's the register?
Scrolling. Yeah,
Yeah.
1/6. For God's sake. Dickheads. The detailed analysis, the amusing banter, the ability to call it how it is now and was retrospectively, what's not to like? I tip my hat to the sun-seeing Chippy T, Mayor of Targ, and the most ruthless Sheriff Gulch ever saw. It's terrific, tantalising, and tremendous. A real triple treat. Triple treat. I'm glad he picks up on that.
Yeah. Thank you,
Made
David.
Calabos very happy. Thank you, Mr. Hearn. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Always indeed. Dennis B, another one of our awesome patrons, of course. I don't recall how I stumbled across Zapped to the Past, likely from a mention on some other Retro Hour podcast. Were we mentioned on Retro Hour? I think it was Retro Asylum, but who knows?
Maybe both.
Podcast, maybe both. Podcast. Anyhow, the systematic progress through Zap 64 and the C64 days have been a lovely way to learn more about some of my childhood favourite games, but also a chance to discover some absolute treasures of games I missed out on back then. The amount of very bad games and the discussions on companies that developed and published these have also given me another perspective on the history of our dear bread bin and its scene. I think the weekly batch reviews is so very well done. Clearly a lot of love and work has gone into this, and even the worst piles of poo had given their fair share of evaluation and proper criticism. You have to say why it's bad. You can't just say it's, but you have to say why.
Yeah.
For some games, I think Adrian and Graham have probably invested more time and effort than the original reviewers at SAP 64 HQ did. Quite possibly.
Yeah, quite possibly, yeah.
Congratulations and my deepest gratitude for your continued effort on what is my all-time favourite podcast series.
Oh, I love that. Love that.
I know. I'm not good with compliments.
I know. I've got a very sort of I'm very smiley and I'm very humbled by all of these. I mean, that's such a lovely thing to hear. To be your favourite, someone's favourite of anything is amazing. And yes, I mean, we do have to, go through we have to wade through a lot of poop. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, you know what? It's an investment of time that we agreed to do from the beginning, and we've stuck at it. And you know what? I'm happy to do it, and I'm glad that the production that we put into this is paying off. I'm glad because we do put a lot of time and effort into that to make sure we get it right.
We do. We do indeed.
AL82 Retro. I finally got his name right. Name right.
You have.
I always get it wrong. I've always got it wrong. This is the one we always go, what is it? A651? What is he called? So anyway, AL82. There he is. In a world of fun and fantasy and ever-changing views. Two guys created a fantastic podcast based on old video game reviews. That meant to rhyme. Such is the secret sauce behind Zapped the Past of the listening experiences dedicated to one of the most iconic home microcomputers of all time. Packed with humour, running gags, and assorted memes, ZTTP, Zapped to the Past, is definitely no dog egg. I'm glad you said that, 'cause if that ended there, like it's a dog egg, I'd be like, oh. Using Zap 64 magazine, which they're in no way affiliated with. I'm glad you noticed that. And we've only said it 150 episodes. As a monthly guide to the best of the bread bin had to offer, makes for a winning formula. So it's little surprise I've not listened to another podcast for close to 2 years. That's incredible, isn't it?
That is, yeah.
What makes this particular podcast so special? The answer is consistency. Consistency of subject matter, consistency of format, and most importantly, consistency in quality. Whether it be lamenting the turgidity of yet another slower than molasses isometric trudgeathon or sputtering with incredulity at the ridiculousness of Jack Charlton's Mac Fishing, still crap. Listening to Adrian and Graham's sojourn through the boldest, brightest, mouldiest, and most blighted titles in the Commodore 64's back catalogue is the weekly treat which never gets old. Each and every game, no matter how big nor small, receives a thorough deep dive to uncover what made them tick, or in many cases stink. Each and every title covered in this continuing episodic retrospective is covered, analysed, and critiqued in unparalleled depth, shedding new light, insights, and opinions on many a forgotten classic. Of course, while the main course of the podcast is undoubtedly the games, taking time out to check in on the music and media gracing both small and silver screens from the time is the perfect aperitif. with copious amounts of hairspray and burl by the barrow load. This looks back at 80s and 90s culture, brings a nostalgic tear to the eye of us who were there and a quizzical eyebrow raised by those who weren't. To both Graham and Adrian, a huge congratulations on reaching 150 episodes. It's a tremendous achievement and a significant milestone. It must seem like a never-ending ocean, pun intended, of games you play so we, the avid listeners, don't have to. It's a pleasure to support your endeavours, and here's to the next 150 episodes. Fabulous. Thank you.
Good Lord.
Thank you very much. And that, I'll tell you what, Mr. AL82 Retro there, now they have played some serious long plays as well. I mean, some of their long plays on YouTube are incredible. So, I mean, he's probably not only played some of the games so we didn't have to, but he's also played all the way through to the ends, which some of them don't even have endings. But that must frustrate and annoy in equal measure.
Yeah, it must do. And his stuff on YouTube as well is a very good resource when we just
absolutely.
How does this end?
Does it have an ending? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hats off to you, Mr. Retro.
Yes, thank you very much. Lee Dove says, Zapped to the Past, myself and I hang around the same corner of the internet. I'd already tried and abandoned early writing a series covering the contents of another magazine's cover tapes in chronological order. So when Zapped to the Past announced he and a mate were going for the more ambitious task of covering all the games covered by Zap, I was interested day one. I've also been looking for an excuse to go back and play old favourites and explore some of the unexplored corners of the system, and the podcast provided the perfect structure and pace so as not to get overwhelmed. It's been eye-opening to say the least. There's an old saying that over 90% of everything is crap. Probably is. And time has rendered that true. From my recent experience, I think only 10% of Commodore 64 games are still enjoyable today, and half of those are deeply personal, hitting at a certain time and place for me that didn't hit for others. As an example, I still love Fist 2 as one of my first C64 games, and as an odd Metroidvania, but it's buggy and has a weird map, and I'd only ever recommend it to people as a historical artifact, a prototype for the team's much more impressive Usagi Yojimbo. Through the podcast, I've been surprised by some gems I missed back in the day. Accolade's The Train is an incredible World War II heist train simulator that I've fallen in love with. I've also experienced some shockers that Zap had warned me off or that I missed through luck. Say what you like about the modern games industry, but at least even bad games work out of the box, something that wasn't always true back in the 80s. In doing side research, I've also been appalled at the way some talented developers were ripped off, the coders for most of those stories being, and so I left the games industry never to return. That's sad, isn't it? We've lost some real talent over the years due to this. Zapped to the Past has been a fantastic distraction over the past few years, and now that we're up to 1990, I'm so happy we've made it to 150 episodes, but also sad that the end of the project is fast approaching. Thanks for all the good times, the excuse I've needed to actually play some of those old games with a sense of purpose, and for all the laughs. It's nice.
Yes, very true. It's very sweet. I think I know it says there at the end is approaching, but we've still got ages to go.
Yeah, I think we've got enough to get us through to the end of 2025.
Yep, and then that will be probably now the end. And then there's still games that the Zap forgotten, other things as well.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, there's still planned out. I know I think the last episode or the last one at the moment is episode 212, I think, or 13. So there's still 60 odd episodes still to go. But then, like you said, all the breaks and stuff. So we've got a way yet. We've got a way.
We've got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Our next penultimate entry, is from Dr. Goggles. Good old Dr. Goggles. He's been another one that's been around in the Patreon. I think they all have for quite a while, actually. But I think Dr. Goggles has been one of our long-standing patrons, or longer-standing. Congratulations on reaching 150 episodes, Adrian and Graham. Truly a labour of love. I discovered the Zap to the Past podcast quite near the beginning, so I've been listening since the very early days, and I've enjoyed listening to all the highs and lows, so many lows, of all the wonderful Zap-reviewed games. I recently worked out that I had subscribed to Zap from issue 16 until the very last one, issue 90, November 1992, when it changed to Commodore Force, which I didn't buy. I had moved on to the Amiga by that point, but continued reading Zap for the Amiga content. So I look forward to you playing those 1990 to 1992 games, so I don't have to. I seem to remember some gems in that era. Creatures, ? So hopefully you'll enjoy them. Just avoid stepping in the ocean film licensed dog eggs.
We'll do our best.
But we know there's still some coming. That's the trouble there.
Yeah. It probably is. Dick Tracy is looming large.
Jurassic Park, did that ever come out? I don't know if that came out.
I don't know if that came out. I don't know if that came out, but no. Thank you, Dr. Goggles. Yeah, we'll try and avoid those.
Thank you, Dr. Goggles.
And our final comment from Joshua K78. Computers have been a constant presence in my life since I was a young kid in the 80s, and like most back then, I grew up with a Commodore 64 and buying Zapped 64 magazine. Over the years, I developed a spot of nostalgia for the C64, and I've enjoyed watching people squeeze more and more out of the bread bin. When two UK guys posted on the Lemon 64 Facebook page they were going to go through every issue of Zapped 64, I jumped right on board, only to witness the elite heresy. What a way to start a podcast, lol.
Yep.
Yeah. If you got to make a name for yourself, you got to go in.
It's brave, I think, is what we call that.
Yeah. But there's a lot of truth to what they say, and it's been really interesting to listen to two people peel back the history of C64 gaming. I was a big fan of Gremlin graphics. Thing on a Spring, Monty on the Run, Jack the Nipper. But wow, were they exceptions to the rule? Yes, they are. The same with Ocean Games. I loved that company growing up, but given their approach to game development and the treatment of developers, not so much. I'm not even sure I trust or even like Zapped 64 quite as much as I did.
Okay, we didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, the byproducts is like, oh no. But it's not all gloom. I loved Fist 2. And the Zapped to the Past guys introduced me to Samurai Warrior. There you go.
Yeah,
and it's become a late favourite on the machine. Same with Project Firestar, The Train, Escape to Normandy, and Times of Law. Absolute diamonds in the rough. I love when a game I enjoyed playing turns up in Zapped 64, and I love it when it gets the recognition it deserves. Cauldron, Nebulous, Whizball, and Quietly Despair when they were harshly treated. Cops and Robbers, Mask, Karnov. Yes, Karnov.
Shifty side eyes all around.
Oh dear. I was chewing my fingernails when the review of Head Over Heels was approaching. Personal favourite of mine. I was afraid the guys would tear into it for being another dreaded isometric Spectrum port. But no, they gave it the same chance they do all games, and it was a winner too.
Yeah, we did like it. We did.
I think we said it was the
you
best. No, you did. you Spider-Man thing. I think it. Okay. Okay. We liked it. So a large thank you from me for the great efforts, guys. I've enjoyed many evenings out walking with the dog, listening to the podcast talking about games. I like to sneak a peek beforehand on YouTube so I know what they look like. Looking forward to many more evenings. Congratulations for hitting 150 episodes. And thank God you play these games so I don't have to.
Very good. I like the fact that his dog talks about games when he's on a walk with it. It's quite clever.
What was Striker like? Rough. Yes, it was. Very much so.
Did you think it deserved 5%? Half of that? Oh, right, 2.5 then. Goodness sake, agree with you.
Did you like the trees in Forbidden Forest? Rough. Bark. Yes, they did look like they had rough bark. Yes, the textures,
very
the textures were good. The pixel art was very good.
What do you mean it had no pause? I think it's firstly, thank you to all of our patrons and all of the people that have participated and given us their thoughts for episode 150. But they're an active community on Discord, and we're always chatting and having a laugh in there. And so we're always, we're in service to our amazing patrons. At the end of the day, they support us and have done for a long time. And I just want to say a personal thank you for all of the amazing comments. When we first set out doing this, we had our ambitions were never that high. We just kind of the ambition was really kind of, if we get a few listeners out and people enjoy it, that's all we really wanted to do it for. It's more really initially. We were just doing it because we wanted to go through the games and just see if Adrian's original pitch was to see if they still stood up to modern day. Were they as good as we remembered? Now, I didn't anticipate that they wouldn't be in such a scale. In fact, quite the opposite. Most of them are crap compared to how I remembered. But it's always comforting to know when you come across one that you remember being good, it was good. And we're a little bit in uncharted territory for me now because I was onto the Amiga now, really. So a lot of the C64 games we're playing now are going to be quite either new or I played the Amiga version first and maybe came across the C64 one. But I'm glad that the efforts that we put into all of the production and all of the research and all the things we do, this isn't a small operation. We put a lot of effort into this because we want to do it right for you guys. That's why we do it. I don't want to pay lip service to any of these things. I've tried to keep as much as an open mind about all of the games that we play as possible. And we do, honestly, play every single one as well. There's no... where there is no skipping it or anything else. We played and have played every single one, good or bad. And I can tell you it's been mostly bad. But recently, this episode, of course, actually mostly good, I think, for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
So thank you from me to everybody that listens, and I'm glad you enjoy it. We will continue in the same vein that we have been doing, and we're going to plod on and keep playing the game so you don't have to. There's been a nice evolution of this podcast over time, in terms of the way we branded it and certainly in the way we produce it and the way we actually present it. We've got far more comfortable I was listening back to episode 1 earlier. It's quite funny when I listen back, but it's quite mad. The difference between that and now is like night and day. But the principle was always the same, and we're just two very long-standing friends who've known each other a very, very, very long time, which gives us a kind of a good insight into our personalities because we know pretty much what the person's going to say. And, we can say certain phrases and we just know instantly what that other person means. And that's a nice position to be in when two long-standing old friends can make other people laugh and have a good time, because that's kind of what we've always been like. We're not doing anything differently now in terms of the banter that we have and the jokes we have to how we were doing this in my bedroom when I was a teenager. So we've principally been doing the same thing. We're practiced, I suppose, is what I'm saying at this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you enjoy the sort of jokes. I was always frightened they might be a bit in-jokey, but I'm actually kind of relieved that some of our crazy nonsense is kind of catching on.
Absolutely. But I'm going to have to stop you there,
That's my
Graham.
2 pennies worth.
I'm going to have to stop you and just stop the press because we've got a late one in. We've got a late comment from Roger Dodger. Roger Dodger has...
that is 11th hour. Well done, Roger Dodger.
Yeah, I listen to most of the popular retro gaming podcasts, which I really enjoy. One thing I'd always wanted, though, was a dedicated C64 podcast. Rewind to April 2021, I was listening to the Retro Asylum podcast, episode 248, and Adrian Mills was interviewed, and Graham, we were both interviewed, about something called Zapped to the Past, which focused on the C64 games reviewed in Zap 64. I was delighted. 150 episodes later, and what a journey it's been. We've had Dusty Roger Moore, Marty the Neck Pello, Meatball Hair, Simply Bread, The Gonk, and who can forget the gremlin graphic Gary Lineker. Games-wise, there's been some highs, number of surprises, and plenty of crap verts. Dog eggs aside, it's been great to discover games that passed me by back in the day. Similarly, the film, TV, and music reviews have also made me go back and check out stuff I'd previously missed, as well as providing an excellent critique of British culture at the time. Zapped to the Past even spawned another podcast, Battle of the Pilots, providing deep dives of cult TV shows. Amazing work, folks. Thanks for all your hard work, creating such a fun and interesting podcast with a wonderful online community. And P.S. Love Gary's appearances. Can we have more, please?
We tried.
We tried. Yeah, we did. We tried to get him on for this episode, but work and schedules just didn't match up, I'm afraid.
No,
we will try and get him on there. Obviously, we do like getting him on, and it's always fun because he's one of our best mates. And we've known him for we've known him for as long as we've known each other. So we go back many, many years, and so we'll do that. But thank you very much. That's really good.
Gary can't always get away from the burlesque nights that he does, so we can't. We can't. Probably shouldn't have said that. From his post office job. Sorry, air quotes post office job, and with his yard trimmings that he has to take care of. So yeah,
indeed. But thank you, the Gonk, Simply Bread, Meatball Hair. The Meatball Hair one always makes me crack up. There is so much meatball hair in the late 80s, and we never even noticed it. It snuck by.
No.
It snuck by like a secret Campbell's tin.
But you know what's really frightening about that is that one of us, Adrian, not me or you or Gary, maybe a little bit Gary, but one of us in our little friend set back then had meatball hair, and it was even called out for it, and we didn't notice. We didn't notice. We did. There was even called croissant head at one point.
It was. Oh dear. And thank you as well for mentioning Battle of the Pilots. Graham's lost it. So if you listen to this and you haven't checked out Battle of the Pilots, go do that as well. There's only 5 of them, but I'm sure there'll be more as they come along and we think about it. I think we've got plans for loads more of them if we actually want to do them.
Yeah, well, we've got loads of TV shows to go at, so
there is, yeah. And I like the fact that critique of British culture. I think that's quite important because we are obviously British, we are English, we grew up in a small English town, and I think the wrapping all these 64 games around our sort of views of sort of those times and what we were going through and what the UK was going through and all that. I think it's part and parcel of this podcast. I don't think it stands as well on its own without those things. I don't know what else to say, though. I mean, you've said it far more effusively than I possibly could. I'm, like I said, I'm terribly uncomfortable with compliments. So, but I just want to say thank you very much. It's lovely to hear all those really kind words, and we will keep on playing these games so you don't have to. I love doing this. I love doing this podcast. Even crap game, that Striker, for God's sake, even that brings merriment in a way that it's probably not supposed to. But in different ways, you find the light in the ways you find them. somehow. But yeah, thank you very much to all our community and everyone
Absolutely.
out there, everyone that listens.
Absolutely.
Like you said, we didn't know we didn't know if we'd get 25 downloads or 10 or whatever, but 175,000 later. Patrons,
crazy.
People supporting us. It's mad, and
It's overwhelming.
yeah, it is as well. And if you want to, by the way, just sort of, we're just going to stick this out there as well. I'm just going to say, because we're going the Zapped live event. I don't know, we haven't sort of said that yet, have we? We are going.
No,
so we're going to the Zapped live event. We're not going like as officially or anything. We're not there as talkers or anything. We'll just be there. But please do, if you're coming along to that, please. We're going to probably mention it more over the coming months. It's August, isn't it? But stop us, say hello. We will be wearing Zapped to the Past merch, so you won't be able to avoid us. We'll be like the pearly Zapped to the Past kings and queens.
We will. We're going to have Zapped to the Past hats, Zapped to the Past bags, Zapped to the Past shoes,
Zapped to the Past underpants on the outside.
Yeah, and that's all.
Well, they've got to be on the outside of something.
Oh, they will be.
So yeah, if you go into that, look out for us. We'll be about.
Yes, we might even have some dog eggs that you can have. We'll give you a free dog egg.
We might bring some dog eggs with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. You're cool. It's all but it says.
Yes, you are too cool.
Yeah, we are. And that's it. This is episode 150. Don't think it's much to add. What's else to add after that, is there? I'll tell you what games we're looking at next week, I suppose.
Yeah, and then, that.
Next week. 8 games next week.
Ooh.
8 games. It's a big one. I think there's about 3 more episodes left where we've got this many games, and then number of games does tumble. But yeah. So next week, what have we got? Ninja Spirits, another sizzler.
Okay.
I think that's the last Chris Butler game on the C64.
It is.
Pub Trivia Simulator.
Not liking the sound of that.
Boing.
I thought it said boring. Boing.
Boing.
Okay.
With a grand total of 9%.
Oh, goodness me.
X Out.
Okay.
Who knows?
Good on the Amiga, that was.
Then we've got The Footballer, the third of our triple cult games.
Okay.
Cloud Kingdoms.
Yep.
Fiendish Freddy's Big Top of Fun.
Mm.
And then another sojourn into the Freescape engine in Castle Master.
Oh, no.
Set expectations to slow.
Yeah. Must not press warp button.
No, set speed to 200%, please. 400%. There we go. So that's what we've got coming up next week. I think we're finished there. We've probably been talking for ages now, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, I suppose the only thing to mention really is, if you want to join those Patreons, really, if you want to join.
Yeah, you say it, you can do it.
If you want to join the Patreon, you can do by going to patreon.com/Zapped to the Past.
Yay.
Where for a mere price of less than the pint of a beer, I guess, probably about the price of a sandwich or at least a meal deal.
Yeah.
You can get access to our Discord, you can get early access to the episodes, and also they are advert free, and all sorts of bonus content and the things that we put out. You get access to all of that. You get access to participate in the podcast, as we have done, as you've heard today, and all sorts of other bonus stuff. Plus, we're regularly chatting on there all the time. Every day we're on there chatting about stuff. You can come and join that.
Yeah.
If that ain't enough and you're thinking to yourself, well, I wish I could drink out of a mug with a logo on it, we can do that. Go to zaptothepast.shop. There you'll find a whole gang of gimmicks. You can't always write with the pencils or pens, but then you can't have everything. But there is on there mugs, T-shirts, all sorts of paraphernalia with designs on that we did and that. Go and get them. They're all reasonably priced. And as patrons, you get a special price on those, remember? So also, of course, you can buy us a coffee at coffee.com/Zapped to the Past. Is
That's
it? Ko-fi?
right, yeah.
It's spelled K-O-F-I, isn't it? So it's kind of coffee.
It's KO-FI. Yeah.
Yeah, so get us a coffee, which is, if you want to just donate, and just do that. And of course, you can join the Patreon as well. And you don't have to join at the top tier. There's different tiers. And if you just want to contribute a little bit and just be part of the fun, don't necessarily get access to all the cool stuff because that comes with the full tier. But you can do that if you want. You don't have to, you can join in as much as you want to join in or not.
Well, the thing is, for things like this, even if you're on the Patreon, when we ask for stuff, even if you're on the lower tier, when we ask for things like this,
you get to participate.
You can contribute those kind of things.
Absolutely you can. And I think, is that it? Is that all of the stuff that we have?
I think that's it. I think that is it. That's been a long one.
Well, the final thing, I suppose, actually, is the one thing that we never do is try and encourage people to review us on the various different platforms.
If you would.
Things like Apple and things like that, and all the podcast tools. However you access the podcast, whether you do it through Podbean or whether you do it through whatever you do it through, do put us a little review on there. Obviously, hopefully nice one with lots of, we like more stars and things, don't we? And likes and things like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't give us anything other than a big smile on our face, but it does manipulate the algorithms, the space algorithms out there in the world, and perhaps gives us a boosted rating and we appear on different lists in different ways. And that's never a bad thing. With nothing monetized out of that, that's just good things for us. That's good vibes you give in. And who don't like to give good vibes? Everyone likes good vibes. We'll give good vibes to you if you give good vibes to us. And so feel free to do that if you really want to.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, do all that. Do all that. Do it.
What he said.
Do it. Absolutely.
Do it. All I want to do is do it.
Yeah. I think we'll let them go now. I think we've said too
time
much.
To go.
So as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham 150 Raddings.
You have. And you've been listening to episode 150 of Zapped to the Past. And we will be still waiting for our striker to appear so we can press S to miss a shot while a man without pants lays down in front of us. And we will see you again next week. Honk.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.